You're exactly right, Gary, and as any kind of motorsport, change is the norm, and that's exactly what's happening now. A lot of new blood coming in the sport. We've got new drivers, we've got new trucks, but some of the old guard is getting moved around too. Now, earlier in the day, I had a chance to talk to the old master himself, Bob Chandler, the Bigfoot fame, to find out why he's making some of the moves that he's making right now. It's almost like a chess game. This is what he had to say.
Well, we want to keep racing, monster truck racing, going ahead. And Bigfoot organization, we've actually taken Jim Kramer out of driving a couple of years ago. He's in management. Andy Brass right now is our top driver. He won the series last year. We moved him into an RD truck, Wildfoot we're calling it. And that's the newest Bigfoot vehicle, Bigfoot race team vehicle. And we've brought Gene Patterson, who has been driving Bigfoot's trucks in the past, moved him up to the second position. He's driving Bigfoot this year. So we're making changes just to see what's going to happen. It's a test. The new truck here is a test. We're going to see how it works out. So far, it's been good, but we're always making changes, Army. It's part of our game.
And a master of the game is Bob Chandler. It appears that the moves that Bob was talking about appear to be working out quite nicely. In qualifying, Andy Brass down the R&D Wildfoot truck was the quick qualifier with a pass of 5.45. Now his teammate, Gene Patterson, in Bigfoot was second quick with his pass at 5.56. And there's a look at Andy Brass's Wildfoot truck. And Paul Shea, among the sea of changes we alluded to earlier, there is a new driver in the snakebite camp. A newcomer named Rick Rattler now wears the mask, and Army talked to him about it.
Well, Gary, in the past, when you saw this insignia and a man with the hood, you knew that Colt Cobra was in town with the snakebite truck. The snakebite truck is going to be here today. The hood's going to be here today. You might even see this, but there is a new driver, Rick Rattler. Rick, what are you doing in this truck?
Well, Colt's in the research and development, Army, and I'm here to prove a point. Colt knows that I can drive this truck just as good as he can, or maybe even a little better. And I'm here to rattle a few cages, and that's why they call me Rick Rattler.
Oh, I love that. The camp we call the snake bite. In round one action, Rattler in the near lane taking on Scott Stevens.
Rattler's snake-like reflexes got him off the start line first, but Stevens out of Woodlands, Texas / Indianapolis, Indiana, mile an hour
By eighth, had to take on Gene Patterson. Remember, Gene now is in Bigfoot. He qualified number 2. Normally, this is a matchup you might see in the finals, but here, Fred goes home early.
No love lost. Ford versus Dodge. Look at this. Two bad boys going at each other. The boy in blue will be coming back in the next round, though. The red Dodge, he goes on the trailer, Gary.
Round 2 action.
Thanks a lot.
Well, there is a look at Bigfoot with a new driver in the cockpit. We say new. He's certainly not new to the Bigfoot organization. Gene Patterson has been around for a lot of years, but he takes over the truck that has had so much success with Andy Brass in the cockpit, because Brass moves on to the new Wildfoot truck, and going up against Bigfoot will be David Morris out of Tennessee, the equalizer, one of the older trucks on the circuit. They just keep bringing this thing back year after year, and it's very competitive.
Yeah, and it keeps going faster and faster year after year. It's really amazing with Gary Cook and this young Morris boy done out of Tennessee on a real low budget. The other side of the track, the computer guys, Bob Chandler and his crew, and everybody, like Bob said earlier, are going forward. This sport is going forward. These two trucks are perfect examples. But when the light goes green, somebody's got to go to the other end. It'll be a Ford this time, Gary.
That'll be Gene Patterson in Bigfoot number 10. That computer-designed tube-frame race truck out of St. Louis.
You know, Patterson's an interesting story. He came into the sport actually crewing with the Bigfoot team, and Bob Chandler works his guys through an apprenticeship. They'll start at a certain level and then work to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. And Patterson now has worked his way up to be the number 2 driver on this team. That's about as American a dream as you can have come true for you right there.
Well, these guys can work on these trucks as well as drive these trucks as part of that apprenticeship that you talk about.
Exactly. That's why they make them do it.
Good-looking new paint job. It's Wildfoot. Don't kid yourself. This is part of the Bigfoot organization. There's a man that's been so successful in monster truck competition. Andy Brass out of St. Louis, Missouri, has won everything there is to win in this type of competition. Now, this is earlier, round 1 against Don Van Loo. Don drives the Magnum Force pickup, and it was all Andy Brass.
Van Loo had some electrical problems, but believe me, Andy Brass had him covered from the starting line, Gary. Now, that was first round. Now we're rolling over to the next round.
Out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, Kurt Dabney drives the Nightmare. He was victorious over the Executioner in round 1, and so he pulls alongside Wildfoot.
Dabney's a guy that I call a kamikaze pilot. Man, he will pull a trigger on you in a heartbeat. Look at that. He's pushing that new Wildfoot. Oh, there goes
He's
Dabney
upside
over.
down. He actually rolls it on over, doesn't make it all the way over. He was in trouble midway through this run.
And did not lift. He knew he was in trouble, but he was still going after the jugular vein.
Well, watch him in the right lane. He is in trouble, Army, almost from the beginning.
Well, in no man's land, the truck gets a little out of shape right there. Now when he lands, something lets go in the front, and man, he high sides immediately. Boy, I am so glad they build these trucks strong, Gary.
That was one hard shot that he took, but he is okay. Now the wreckage is being cleared off the track, and we are getting ready for semifinal action. Gene Patterson in Bigfoot in the far lane. Earlier, Army talked to Gene about stepping into the shoes of Andy Brass.
I'm here to do one thing. You know, I've been off this circuit for a couple years now, and Chandler put me behind the wheel of Bigfoot 10, and it was a champ last year, and I'm going to do everything I can to put that Ford team in #1 spot.
And he pulls alongside the Carolina Crusher with Gary Porter.
And just as intense as Patterson is putting Ford #1, Porter with the Carolina Crusher, he wants those Chevrolet people to have something to cheer about. This is the old, you know, there's a lot of old rivalry starting to come around. The longer this sport goes, look at here. Look at this kid out of North Carolina, but Foot comes back.
What's wrong with the Carolina Crusher? Something at the very end of that run. He had the foot covered, and something mechanically happened to Gary Porter.
I think it was something happened. The engine just cut clean. Look at the leave on him. Boy, the Chevrolet's out. Patterson knows he's in trouble, but right here, the engine just burps for a second, and that allows Patterson to pick up that mile an hour and fly past him.
Well, he will go to the finals, and he's standing by with Army.
Well, Gary, in racing, a lot of times they say it's better to be lucky than to be good. Yeah. Gene Patterson is talking with a crew chief here. Gene, I'm going to be real honest with you. I think he had you.
Yeah, he did, Army. You know, I could see him out of the corner of my eye all the way. You know, we shifted her in high gear, and we let the Ford power take over for us. Seems like the Firestone tires hooked up for us down our end, and I think we passed him up on the finish line down there. That's all it takes in this racing game. You know, there's a winner and loser in every round, and all these boys out here running this weekend are winners. As long as we can keep going one more round, make Ford happy, Trailmaster, BDS, we're rolling.
Well, coming up next, the equalizer with David Morris out of Tennessee, and he pulls alongside Wildfoot and Andy Brass.
Andy Brass is tickled to death to be driving this truck. There's not a lot of pressure on him. He's already proven he's one of the premier drivers in the sport. He's going up against this kid out of Tennessee, been around a long time. But Brass likes the idea of you being involved in a research and development truck. He likes to experiment. He likes to try something new. And believe me, you can just tell by looking at this truck, the way the suspension sits, it's different from the get-go, just sitting on the start line. Look at that, look at this.
Wheel stand.
Whoa!
Oh, he hit that second ramp with the rear tires. That's not the configuration you want to go over that jump. Oh,
wow. Man,
I tell you what, that was driving skill that brought that truck back. Now watch. Watch the wheel stand in no man's land, and watch him hit that second ramp with the rear end.
On the throttle, see, he making so much power, he just pulls a wheelie all the way over. That was neat, Gary Lee.
I don't know how neat that was from the cockpit. Here's Andy.
Andy Brass, it's final time, but in the semifinals, you took a run. I've seen a lot. I've never seen anything like that. What went through your mind on that run?
Well, the only thing I could think of right there when she pulled the wheels, I was like, well, if I let out of it, you know, I knew Equalizer was going to run a good time. I had to more or less stay in it. And I knew if we run her up the hill, she was probably going to nose over after the hill. And we just, when she started to come down, we just tried to stay back in and keep the front wheels pulling, and hopefully she pulled us back down on the ground, and that's what it did.
A veteran driver talking about how he averts disaster, the championship coming up, and I can tell you the winner will come from St. Louis. It'll be Wildfoot against Bigfoot. Missouri are the Bigfoot fleet. There is Wildfoot, the latest development of Bob Chandler. Andy Brass on board. He'll go up against the truck he used to drive, Bigfoot 10, now being driven by Gene Patterson. And before this run, Army Armstrong had a chance to talk to both competitors.
Gary, Gene Patterson, the man that took Andy Brass's seat, is going against Andy Brass in the final. How do you prepare for it, Gene?
Hey, same thing says on my helmet, no fear. You know, got to Ford Bigfoot in the finals. That's what we set out to do here in the first race this season. Penda, you know, we're happy to be here. It don't matter who's in our lane. We got 2 Fords in the finals, and that means a lot to us.
It's going to be a good race, that's what I can say. You know, Gene's been with us for a while. He's been doing a lot of racing. He's a good driver. You know, Gene's been out here. He's run the truck. He stepped into a good truck. You know, we run the championship with it last year, so he's he's got a real good piece of equipment. We come out here with the Wildfoot truck. It's the same thing basically as his, only a little bit new equipment on it. We're trying to do some research and development, and I think the truck's been proving itself. So you know you're going to have two trucks that's almost identical, and two guys that's been at it for a while, so you're going to see some good racing when it comes to finals.
This should be interesting.
It will be interesting, and I'm going to tell you something to look for. Nobody's going to roll over on this one. Both of these guys, if for no other reason, get bragging rights. You talked about the Bigfoot fleet a moment ago. This is going to be the Bigfoot flying circus at the end of this track. I'll guarantee you these guys are going to air these mountain motor Fords out big time.
Well, what does Andy Brass do for an encore after that last semifinal wheel stand?
Go across the finish line first. That's all he can do.
And it looks like he will do that by, only a nose, if that much.
Wow, what a race.
Wildfoot with Andy Brass by about that much over the Bigfoot truck number 10 of Gene Patterson.
Patterson is doing a fine job in that truck. Like he says, no fear. That's the name of this game.
Bigfoot, the far lane, Wildfoot, the near lane, side by side right here, and it's still fender to fender, and Andy noses over, but takes the victory. Let's go trackside, Army.
There's no worse. Congratulations, bud. Great run.
Thank you.
Well, real quick, I'm going to hang on to both of you guys while I got you here. Jim Kramer, you left the driver's seat. This kid kind of came up, took your place. Then you go to the head of the research and development. He follows you, and you're both winners. Is it something in the blood or what?
Hey, I tell you what, Andy's been great. You know, Andy worked with me for years, and he's probably the best driver we got in the organization right now. And he's come along. It's great to get to be able to work with him. I got a lot of ideas. I know a lot of guys back in the shop have a lot of good ideas, and it's great to have a guy like him come out and test them for us.
How do you feel about going out there and testing the unknown? Any other driver, any other truck would not have pulled through that wheelie that you took today. That's showing your research and development program is working.
Well, what I have to say there is a lot for the suspension. You know, we're working with Trailmaster there, and the Ford Wildfoot's been doing pretty good. You know, like I say, we worked with Trailmaster. The suspension worked out good. I think a lot of it, that had to do, you know, we come down on the nose. The truck did handle pretty good. I stepped on it a little bit, brought it back down, and we didn't spend our time bouncing. It settled down and laid down back, and we could control it. So I have to say a lot for that, you know.
Army, there's one thing here. One thing to say about that, riding that wheelie, it takes a lot of heart to do that. You know, he's got it right here where it counts. He didn't give up, and that's what I like about him.
A lot of heart and a lot of talent and a lot of championships.
Yeah, there's a lot of respect between those two people. They are definitely a credit to the sport. What's the first thing he does? Goes over and congratulates Patterson. That's the caliber and individual they are.
And our congratulations to Andy Brass. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Blue, who had the unenviable task of drawing Andy Brass in the first round. The latest entry of Bob and Marilyn Chandler's racing stable is called Wildfoot. Magnum Force was simply no match for Andy Brass.
Andy Brass showed right there he was a class of the field today. That eliminated down to one final bullet for the Dodge camp, Gary.
And that belongs to Fred Schaefer. Up until this point, all the wins had come out of the near lane during round one. Now, Fred had the new Bigfoot driver, Gene Patterson, just where he wanted him, but no, Fred Schaefer couldn't get the job done with barefoot, and he goes home early.
He lost a transmission in no man's land. Not taking anything away from Bigfoot for the win, but we got to be up front. The Dodge did lose the transmission.
Leads now to a run turned in by Andy Brass in Wildfoot. You talked about the ability of carrying a wheelie through the run. Now this is Wildfoot, the newest in the Bob Chandler Bigfoot organization out of St. Louis, Missouri, and watch him carry the front wheels.
This is what I call a really wheelie. Watch it.
But it's the experience of Andy Brass. He knows he has to stay in the throttle because when that car, that truck noses over, he has to keep the throttle down because then the four wheels will pull him back out of it.
Exactly. You get a corner touching the ground, it'll get you going straight again.
All right, Andy Brass pulls alongside Gary Porter.
Both of these drivers are known as hard levers on a start line. It's going to be Chevrolet against Ford, Gary. What do you think?
Well, I tell you what, this Wildfoot truck has shown a lot in the early stages of competition, and it's all over for Gary Porter.
Yeah, but Porter, you know, being up front again. Wildfoot is a class of field today, but Porter had an electrical problem. His motor cut clean right before the second jump. I don't know if it's the moisture or what, but boy, when it went away quick.
As you indicated, this race could be won at the starting line. They are side by side right here over that first jump. Now something happens to the Carolina Crusher. Let's go down trackside and find out. And there could be a problem in Wildfoot as we take a look at the Wildfoot teammate. That is Bigfoot. That is Gene Patterson. But we understand that there could be a problem in the Wildfoot Ford that just won that pairing with the Carolina Crusher. Let's go trackside once again. Here's Army.
Gary, as we're looking at Andy Brass, boy, this is something you don't see very often. They're taking him back into the pit area. Okay, look underneath the vehicle. He's punched a hole in the oil pan. You can see the oil coming out from the oil pan right now. So Andy's not going to stop and talk to us. They're not going to be able to come back. They have punched a hole in that big engine. Back to you, Gary.
Well, as that big Ford is towed back to the paddock area, we take a look at the executioner. This is Mark Hall. He is at the starting line, and he pulls alongside Gene Patterson in Bigfoot.
You know, Mark and his brother Tim could be one of the best-kept secrets in the sport. They've come around. They're paying their dues right now, and they are getting closer and closer each week. Gene Patterson steps up into an already proven truck, so Hall has got nothing to lose. You just lay everything on the line right here. No, not going to happen again.
He didn't lay anything on the line because the truck wasn't there for him.
Something went away big time there.
So an easy pass for Gene Patterson as he will advance, but obviously something mechanically wrong with the executioner. And
boy,
that's
a
look
tough
at Mark Hall.
and believe me, Gary Lee, before this year's over, the Hall boys are going to be playing hardball with these guys.
Well, the executioner just got shot in the foot there at the starting line, so he'll go back to the trailer, and Bigfoot will advance.
Yeah, but he'll get the last swing of the axe before this year's over.
Well, let's go back to the track and talk to Gene Patterson.
Gene, it seems like more and more pressure keeps getting put on your shoulders.
Yeah, that's right, Army. You know, a little rain here hurt us a little bit today, but we feel like the Firestones are hooking up real good. We got a good cut on these tires. We've been working on them for a couple months now. We detuned the motor a little bit, and we geared the truck down. You know, we felt like this track wasn't going to take as much horsepower it has in the past. Seems like it's working for us. Put the Dodge on the trailer in the first round. We win another round. We're hanging out for the next one.
Final, the big question is the old rivalry between Equalizer and Bigfoot. The difference is Bigfoot's got a new shoe driving it.
Well, here's that matchup right now, and there is Gene Patterson. He's been with the Bigfoot organization for a number of years, and he steps into Bigfoot 10, vacated by Andy Brass when Brass goes to Wildfoot. And there is the Equalizer out of Tennessee with young David Morris.
Oh, Gene Patterson, when we do an interview, he kind of walks away from the camera. He holds up his index, his little finger, and his thumb, which is a sign for hang loose. You know, anybody's been to Hawaii, that is kind of his logo, and that's the way he drives the truck. Hey, just hang loose, give it 100%, and it'll all work out for you. See if it works for him.
Well, the winner here goes up against the Carolina Crusher for the championship. Good start by the Equalizer. Who's going to take it? Gene Patterson takes it in Bigfoot. Bigfoot, Gene Patterson advances to the championship against the Carolina Crusher.
Chevrolet and Ford, Gary, going to the finals.
On the replay, watch the two different driving styles. In the near lane, Equalizer rolls over this first jump, while Gene Patterson and Bigfoot jumps the first jump. And right here, Patterson gets the advantage, and he takes the measure of the Equalizer. He goes to the championship. But right now, let's go trackside and talk to David Morris. Well, it looks like Bigfoot and the driver, Gene Patterson, are back in the pit area. Let's go back there and check in with Gene.
Okay, it's kind of a unique situation. We were talking to the crew about an hour ago. He wasn't even supposed to be here. He's going to be in the final, but you get lane choice. What'd you all decide on as far as lanes?
We're going to go ahead and take the right lane, Army. We've bounced back and forth all day here, you know. The sun kind of pops out and it goes back in, you know. These lanes are changing every round. Ford, it's hooking up for us. We keep tuning in between rounds. We're going to put this Ford in the final. You know, we've been here before. I'm sitting in Andy's shoes. Trailmaster Shocks are handling real good for us today. BDS, they're doing their job. Firestone, everybody back at the shop, they've done their work to put me here. Now I got to just bring them home the trophy.
A good driver gets up alongside Gary Porter in the Carolina Crusher.
You know, over the years, we've seen these trucks go head-to-head quite a few times, but there's one difference. The face of the driver in the big blue truck. Porter, I wonder if he is going to try to intimidate this new driver, or if they're just going to go up there and lay it on the line and just do some heads-up racing. Okay, it's already been answered.
Motorsport, Army, that the driver have confidence in his vehicle, and obviously a new driver in Gene Patterson, but he knows this truck very well, and he's very confident.
Exactly, but also he knows what pressure is because Andy Brass won in the truck. He's got to step up into those shoes. It's just a good old-style heads-up race. This who's going to take it.
And it is Gene Patterson, Bigfoot, the big blue Ford from St. Louis. A handshake from the crew chiefs, and Bigfoot in victory lane. How many times have we said that? Only this time, Gene Patterson in the cockpit.
He not only stepped up into Andy Brass's shoes, he found out they were tap shoes because he was tap dancing all over everybody today. Congratulations to him.
And he wins it here in the rain and the gloom of Lima, Ohio at the Allen County Fairgrounds. One more look at the championship run of Gene Patterson. Let's go down to victory lane. There's a look at Gene.
Well, Gene, congratulations. No guts, no glory, and you get the glory today. Great job.
Thanks a lot, Army. You know, it's tough running here today. Like I said earlier, the rain, you know, kind of played a hamper on us. The weather conditions changing on us all day long. Ford, Bigfoot, we're making all kinds of power out here this year. We're gunning for these boys. Last year, a couple of them won the war, but the battle's just begun for me. I'm a rookie sitting in this seat. And that Wildfoot went out the first round. We were gunning for him. He took us out in the finals yesterday. We're there. Firestone, Trailmaster, BDS, MSD, Autometer. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here in the winner's circle this weekend. Just thanks a lot, and everybody back at the shop, you know. Appreciate the help. We'll see you home with a trophy this week.
Well, he is far from a rookie, but wouldn't every rookie like to have a set of wheels like that?
He came back with a big smile on his face. He said, believe me, the Chevrolet people are going to have something to cheer about before the year's over. Back to you, Gary.
Well, Army, here's a look at that round one matchup between Kirk Dabney and the USA 1. Now, this is the truck that won the national title back in 1988, was then driven by Rod Litzow. Unfortunately, Dabney goes up against what could be the class of the field today, Andy Brass and Wildfoot, but they went at it tooth and nail, just like they did in the old days of TNT Racing.
Well, the USA 1 Chevrolet actually ran him tough over the first half of the field, but the Ford later model suspension seemed to tell the story on that run.
Watch that camera. Well, the biggest upset, Army, of round one, Don Van Loo in the far lane shows he can step up and run with the big boys, taking out the snakebite Ford of Rick Rattler.
This is some of that rivalry I was telling you about, where Dodge and Ford are starting to go head-to-head. Dodge takes that round.
Closing out round one, watch the vicious shot Gene Patterson takes when taking the measure of John Moore, and no problem, but watch this landing.
Working for a living, Gary Lee.
Oh, that hurt. Now, that run came the day after he collapsed the rear end in qualifying. Watch the air Patterson gets in laying down the second quickest pass in the qualifying session.
You know, but Gary, on this run, he hits hardest where the feathers are the thinnest. And this is what happened.
Well, we'll see how those tough landings affect Bigfoot in round two. It's competition. There is a good look at Wildfoot, the latest creation from Bob and Marilyn Chandler out of St. Louis, Missouri. The driver, of course, is Andy Brass, and he pulls alongside the Monster Patrol, and there's a look at Paul Schaefer.
Paul Schaefer, one of the young up-and-comers in this sport. He had already made a name for himself in the sport of professional mud racing. He's won world championships in that sport. He's rolled over now on the MTRA circuit, runs a Jamboree series, and he draws Andy Brass out of St. Louis, Missouri, like you say, in the Wildfoot truck, Gary.
And Brass was the quick qualifier. Here's a look back at his qualifying run. Now watch the air this guy gets.
But also notice how soft the truck lands. That's the trick. See, it absorbs the energy.
Well, yeah, but look at the shot he took in the cockpit.
That's what he does in the weekend.
Here's a look again at Wildfoot as he pulls alongside Paul Schaefer at the Monster Patrol. This is round two competition from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania.
Chevrolet and Ford, one of them's going to go on a trailer and not be able to come back. Who is it going to be? Andy Brass is the odds-on favorite. Just because of time in the seat, Schaefer runs him tough. No.
Oh, I like that new camera angle. Hang on there, Schaefer. He gets over into Andy's shutdown lane. But Andy Brass will advance, and Paul Schaefer will put that monster truck on the trailer and take it back home.
The unique rule in the sport is he can get over in the other lane. The orange cones down the middle indicate a center line. You can get over in the other lane because you can't control your vehicle. The rule is, though, you cannot make contact with the other truck. So
and
no
look
harm,
at the
no
height
foul
there.
here.
Look at the air that Andy Brass is getting in Wildfoot. And Brass, the pilot, has landed. Let's go down trackside and get a comment with him. Army?
Andy, looking good. New driver suit and all going into the next round. What's it feel like out there?
Well, the track's feeling a little bit better than what it did in qualifying earlier. You know, they did a lot of work to the ramps. We was having a lot of problem with air. The steam still felt like we got a lot of air on this run. But like I say, we switched lanes this round. You know, we was digging in off the line. Seemed like the truck was twisting on us. You know, we did a lot of work to the Firestone tires on us. We cut them a little different, so we pulled over in the other lane, hoping we could pull a straight shot off the line. We did do that. We was pulling pretty good. You know, we was hoping to beat a good time, beat Fred's time, you know. We did do that, so I'm happy with the run.
Patterson in the Bigfoot 4. Now, we've had lots of damage to Bigfoot done this weekend during the qualifying section. As we told you earlier, they tore the truck up pretty good. So everyone back at the shop in St. Louis has been brought to Bloomsburg to help rebuild it.
Yeah, they made a phone call last night, and they showed up with everything but the kitchen sink, but they got to go against Van Loo, and Van Loo is part of this Dodge movement that I was telling you about. Dodge wants to go head-to-head with Ford. Their dream is coming true right now. This is a corporate war right now. It's not just for these two guys.
Well, of course, the Chevy Privateers are on the trailer. We had two Chevys at the start of round 2. They're both out. Oh, look how close this one is.
You call it. I can't.
No, I don't. That was just about as close as you can come to a dead heat, a photo finish. Fans love that when there's a guy with the home videotape camera. He'll have to go back and check the video to see who won this thing.
Well, Van Loo is really starting to step up. You know, he's getting confidence with the truck. Characteristics: Dodge truck motor to the rear, lower the driver. Ford truck motor in the front. Look at the balance here.
And it looks like Gene Patterson will take the victory. Gene takes it. We'll talk to him now with Army.
When you drive a blue Ford in a monster truck division named Bigfoot, a lot of pressure on you. These guys aren't going to let you blink. You got to earn everything you get out there, don't you, Gene?
That's right, Army. You know, the Ford Bigfoot team, we're running real good here this weekend. Last night we had a lot of problems in qualifying. I'd like to thank everybody who pitched in, Larry Hall from BDS. We had to put a motor, transmission in this truck, and completely rebuild the rear suspension on it. We got it done. We're out here racing. We're running for all it's worth, and these boys, just like you said, they ain't going to let us die. You know, we're going to just keep right out there. We're chugging away.
Well, Gene Patterson certainly has his game face on because he is a sore racer right now after some of those landings. But we're coming back with more competition from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Stay with us.
You appreciate it.
All right, here we go. Back to the race of the semis with Van Loo and Andy Brass.
Now remember, Brass is established with the Wildfoot truck. People want to know, why Wildfoot? Why not Bigfoot? You can't run two trucks with the same name in this series. That wraps that up. Meanwhile, Dodge and Ford.
Andy Brass by a fender. They almost get together, and Brass almost goes over. And there's a look at Jim Kramer taking a hippity hop across the staging area down there. Boy, he realized how close Andy Brass came to getting on his noggin. And let's go down to Army with Jim Kramer.
Well, I tell you what, you're giving a kid good advice, but he's going to make an old man out of you real quick.
I think this monster truck race is going to make an old man out of me. They're killing him kind of fast down there, Army. You see, they got a little bit in trouble. I'd like to see him let him go run a little bit longer in that kill box. You know, the kill box is great. We got a lot of room here in Bloomsburg. I'd like to see him just not kill him so fast. Andy right away hit the ground. He killed him. He was out of shape.
And he needs the power to actually steer the truck back down.
In some cases, yeah. In that case, exactly. He got a little bit up on his left side, as you saw. He needs the power. Just a short blast, he could have got out. I mean, I really respect the kill box, but in that case, I think it's a little too quick for the area we have. But it's all right.
There's a guy that certainly spent his share of time in the cockpit of Bigfoot. Works now at the home office of Bigfoot in St. Louis as we take a look again, and both these guys get out of shape in a big way right here at the finish line.
Oh, that's ballet in air.
Yeah, they almost got together right there. Andy almost gets upside down. Let's go back down trackside to Army with Andy Brass.
What you're looking at right now is the crew's coming over. When the truck landed, it landed kind of a lollygaggle. They think it may have rolled the wheel, rolled the tire off of the rim. I'm with Andy Brass right now. Andy, boy, you had your hands full down there. There's no slack time on that finish line area of this track, is there?
No, there isn't. You know, the finish line on this track's been kind of rough. We pulled over in this lane. We're getting better traction off the line in this lane, but the landing area in the left lane's pretty rough on us. It's throwing everybody around. We got down there, throwed us up on the one wheel. Just as we started to step back in to bring her back down, we're running the remote ignition interrupters, and they killed us because, like I said, I don't know exactly what went on. I'd have to look at the video and see. Somebody said they was going to hit us. They thought we was going to hit in the air, so it must have been a pretty rough run. That's around for both of us.
Well, as the crew continues to work on the Wildfoot, we take a look at Barefoot now with Fred Schaefer, and Fred will go up against Gene Patterson in Bigfoot. Now, they've watered the track there at the starting area. It's a little loose on the line, and both drivers are trying to pack down the dirt to get a better bite. There's a look at Gene Patterson in Bigfoot.
That's that dry hop procedure we were telling you about a moment ago that came over from the sport of drag racing. In drag racing, they do it to heat the tires to get it a little bit sticky. In monster truck racing, they do it to clear out the path in front of them. They don't have to worry about bite with those big cleats or those big bars on those tires.
So it's Dodge against Ford in the semis as Andy Brass looks on because he will face the winner of this one for the championship here in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania.
Schaefer came up on the torque converter trying to get out of the hole quick, Gary.
Oh, how close was that one? Let's get the opinion of an expert down there.
You call it. Who do you think won?
I think Fred did there a little bit. It looked like he did hit the second ramp a little faster than what Gene did. It looked like Gene pulled him pretty good over the first set of hills, but when Fred landed, he's running a Crowder glide with the clutch in it, and it gives him that like slingshot effect right when he lands, and I think that might have helped him out a lot there.
Can you handle the Dodge?
Yeah, we can.
The voice of confidence as we take another look at the replay, and here's what Andy Brass was talking about. Now watch this slingshot effect on the landing.
Yeah, when he settles down, it's like winding up a rubber band. The harder it goes, the tighter it gets.
Well, let's talk to our winner. There's a look at the finish.
Andy, can you explain to me why you're not going to be making a final?
Well, we're going in. We checked the truck there. We've been to the rear sway bar. It's got our cantilever suspension there, what's run the whole rear suspension of the truck. It's tweaked out about 6 inches out of its normal pattern. So we're just kind of afraid that if we do make the run, we're liable to break the bar off or mess up our shocks or something. You know, we're going to do more damage than we are good. We're looking at only 200 points in this round, so we're kind of figuring we're going to give up the points and have it ready so we can qualify for the next race later on. You know, we're figuring now we're going to lose. You know, if we break the truck, we're going to lose more and won't be able to, like I say, won't be able to come back for the next race where we'll lose more points there than what we would if we just backed out and lost the 200 here.
So benefit.
Looks just amazing. Like we say, they land hardest where the feathers are the thinnest here.
Round one action now. Gary Porter in the far lane taking on the quick qualifier, Andy Brass. The quick qualifier. Watch the landing the Carolina Crusher takes. Nice for Wayne Smozanik, but I tell you what, he has the work cut out for him now as he, in the far lane, pulls alongside Wildfoot and Andy Brass. And anytime you go up against Andy Brass, you're going up against the best.
It's a good news, bad news scenario. Good news is you won the first round. Bad news, you got Wildfoot in the second round.
And it's going to be all Wildfoot. Yeah. Oh, look at that shot going away. I like that. The crash cam looking away as the truck clears that second set of cars, and there is the winner from round two, Wildfoot out of St. Louis, Andy Brass.
Boy, oh boy, that new suspension, that is the trick. Andy says it's just like landing on a sponge.
That's the big blue truck out of St. Louis, Gene Patterson in the cockpit.
Long line of Bigfoot drivers. Patterson's one of the new kids on the block, steps up to take Andy Brass's place, and in the first round, he went up against a truck that we're not that familiar with, Gary.
And that's the moving violation driven by Brian Welsh, and there is the margin of victory for Gene Patterson in Bigfoot. So he'll pull up alongside Fred Schaefer. Barefoot against Bigfoot. Dodge against Ford.
This one alone is worth the price of the ticket, believe me. Watch no man's land. They'll settle down, they make horsepower, they fly.
Gene maybe by, what, 2 feet?
Man, I don't know. I had my eyes shut.
Gene Patterson by maybe 2 feet. A good close race. Look for Schaefer to come back as the fast loser as we take one more look. Even up over the first jump through no man's land. And perhaps it's that last moment of acceleration right here at that jump that gives the victory to Gene Patterson, and he's standing by with Army Armstrong.
I know he just walked over and shook his hand. Congratulations to both of you. It's a good battle every time you go out there, but you win today.
Thanks a lot, Army. You know, Ford Bigfoot team, we had to come out on top. We had to get it Freddie here in the first couple rounds so we could get up there in the Pin Point Series. Make some money here this weekend. You know, we're kind of down on our luck. We lost the motor and qualified Friday night. Team put it back together. We put a new MSD crank trigger on it today, and it seems like it's giving us a little bit more performance. And the Firestones, the air is getting real good for us. Firestones are hooking up out on the track, and we're going to be there.
They'll go back and get that truck ready for the next round of competition here.
I told you earlier about major corporate America wanting to get involved in this sport. Well, this is how Deppy rolled over into this round. He put one of the big Ford boys in the big box in order to advance into this round of competition.
Well, Army, remember
when they want you guys to win big time, right?
That's right. That's what we're here for, and we got the horsepower. All we just need to do is put that horsepower on the ground, Army. I think you'll see some good results here.
You can see the ruts right there as they have been tracking back and forth, getting ready for the start.
In drag racing, they do the dry hop procedure on the starting line to heat the tires. Here they do it to get just clean dirt, if you will. If there's such a thing where those big old tires can grab. Yeah, it's like starting in a railroad rut, if you will.
Oh, this is a good one. This is a close one.
Whoa,
well, from that shot, we obviously couldn't tell. We'll have to wait and see who actually won that, Ford or Dodge.
They look like two fighter planes in a dogfight right there, man. They were going after each other.
We will have to take a look at the replay to see who actually won this thing as we take a look at Wildfoot. And, well, the Barefoot crew doesn't look too happy. I think we can show you why. Rules dictate that you must hit with both front tires what you're jumping. Now, watch Fred Schaefer right here. He misses with the left side tires. He's disqualified.
Well, Gary, we were talking about...
So there is a look at our next pairing between the Dodge Express and Bigfoot. So another matchup between Dodge and Ford. Let's talk now with Andy Brass, who won that last pairing.
Well, Gary, we decided to go to Andy Brass's offices here for the interview. He's staying in the truck, kind of, I don't think he's superstitious. He just don't want to come out of the truck. He's on a roll. Andy, tell us about it out there.
Well, it's just a little bit of a decision there. You know, we pulled the right lane there in the beginning of the day, and we thought, well, we'd try that when the lane looked a lot better. The starting line we wasn't getting quite the traction off of it. So then the second round, we rolled over there, run the left lane. Feel like we got a pretty decent bite there. We figured the starting line's a lot better there. The Firestones did us a good job digging in. You know, thanks to guys like Ford and BDS, you know, we're building some horsepower here, and we pulled through down there.
Okay, back to our matchup now between the Dodge Express, Ken Duffy, and Bigfoot with Gene Patterson. And the right to meet Andy Brass for the championship.
Well, both drivers working that starting line to perfection. You're trying to psych the other guy out. They won't admit it, but they are trying to psych the other guy out. They want the other guy to stage first so he goes up on his brake and gets more heat in his engine, the transmission or whatever. Green light pops.
Oh, looks like the Dodge Express got the whole shot back.
Whoa, whoa.
They get together, and that would disqualify the Dodge Express because he was over in Gene Patterson's shutdown lane.
Yeah, both drivers, the kill switches have been activated. Okay, the automatic kill switches, both trucks sitting dead in the water on the end of the track. Safety crew coming in. Replay's going to come up on the screen, but like you say, Deppy, now both guys had it on kill. Let's be up front with everybody.
But Deppy's out of shape right there across that center line marked by those cones. He makes light contact, but that's still enough to be disqualified.
Yeah, but Gary, light contact in this sport is kind of like being a little bit pregnant. There's no such thing. When you hit these guys, you hit a ton. It is real contact. You don't believe me? Just look at it one more time. They're lucky they kissed tires and it didn't get on top of each other, Gary, like sprint cars normally do.
Yeah, because one car would have been, or in this case, a truck would have been upside down.
Quick.
Well, here's a look at the crash cam, and there's the contact as we go trackside to visit with Ken Duffy. East has just been brutal. It's so very hot and humid, no hint of a breeze, and the stifling heat, it's taking its toll. While we were away, this is Bigfoot driver Gene Patterson, who we understand is overcome by heat exhaustion and will not be able to drive in the finals. Again, this is from heat exhaustion and not from the result of the bumping incident with the Dodge Express. Now, the Bigfoot race team had wanted to put crew chief Jim Kramer, there he is, talking to Andy Brass to face Brass in the finals. But the rules state that the driver who qualified the truck for the race is the only one who can drive it. So Bigfoot will not be able to run in the finals. So instead of the all Bob Chandler race team, we're going to go all the way back to the second fast loser in round 2. That would be Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol. Remember, we had the 2 DQs in the semifinals with both Barefoot and the Dodge Express. So it will be the Monster Patrol appearing for his first final appearance in just his 4th race on the circuit. So here is a look now at the finals as we sort through all this. It will be the Monster Patrol against Andy Brass and Wildfoot. Oh, brother, understand all that, Army?
Yeah, Gary, I definitely do, and it's a good rule because it keeps side-by-side, 2x2 racing in front of the fans.
And earlier we talked to a very concerned Andy Brass about his teammate Gene Patterson.
Andy, kind of a unique situation here. First of all, you're going in the finals. Congratulations there. You're going to run Gene, but he's definitely under the weather right now. He's a good friend of yours. He's a good competitor. What's going through your mind right now?
Well, it's rough out here. You know, like I say, we're having a hard day today. It's been hot. It's been out over 100 degrees. You're sitting in these 3-layer suits. You got fire underwear on, and it's hot. You're sitting inside the cab, and we're not just in them for just a couple seconds. You know, we're out here for like 2 hours in these suits, and it is hot. I think a lot of things is going on here with Gene. You know, I'm hoping that he pulls out of this real fast, you know, which I'm sure he will. It's just he's got a lot of things on his mind this week. You know, the heat's playing with him, you know, and this weekend also his wife's supposed to go in for a delivery of a new baby this week, so he's playing with that. The track's rough. It's throwing the guys around, you know, and he got a lot of things to think about, you know, because these trucks, and especially when Dodge Express come by and hit him and spun him a little bit, you know, Gene's worried about maybe rolling over and hurting himself, and yet he's got a new family to go home to, and he's thinking about that, and it's just playing a lot on him, and it's really a mental strain on him this weekend.
Well, we talked about the wear and tear on the equipment at the top of this show. Well, a weekend of racing in the hot sun also extracts a human toll as well. We are ready now for the championship shootout between Andy Brass in Wildfoot and Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol.
Literally a pressure. Oh, look at Andy Brass. You talk about hot. He is dead hot on that starting line, and he's going to win it. He was definitely hot today.
Another big victory for Wildfoot, the Bigfoot organization out of St. Louis, Missouri. So they will take the victory here in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, and we'll have a chance to take one more look at the action here.
But, you know, Andy takes the win, and I'm happy for him and the Bigfoot crew and everything. But on the other side of the slate, you got Schaefer coming in the sport new, goes to his first final. It's a psychological victory for he and the Chevrolet camp because they know they can run with these guys.
Congratulations for Andy Brass down there. Sneak in there and see if you get a word with him, Army.
I'll tell you what, Paul just came over and congratulated. That was a good run. This is a lot of different kind of pressure out there today. Not only winning, but you got a friend you're worried about. Does that go through your mind when you're sitting on that starting line?
Yeah, it does. You know, right before we run a two-way communication systems out here. Racing radios, racing electronics, I should say, is working with us a lot. And we've been running a two-way system, talking to each other. And right before we was getting ready to go out, they decided to take Gene on down to the hospital here in town to get him to go down. They say his blood pressure was up real high, and he was dizzy and incoherent. So I was kind of worried about him, you know, and I thought, well, the best thing I can do right now is go out here and put the Ford in first place for him. You know, it was going to be me and Gene in the finals. So we figured, well, we might as well make it a Ford win this year week.
Congratulations to you.
Well, thank you, Army.
So we close it out here in Bloomsburg on a rather somber note. Our best wishes go to Gene. We'll be sure to update you on his condition next. Get right to the highlights now. Chalk up one for Ford, your quick qualifier tonight. No big surprise, Andy Brass in Wildfoot.
Yeah, Brass with the new chassis, the new driver combination really seems to have a lock on this quick qualifying.
Well, that would set up a matchup between Andy Brass in the far lane and Dan Runte, the near lane, driving Bigfoot. Now, Runte is subbing for Gene Patterson, who was suffering from heat exhaustion last week. We'll talk with Gene later on in the show about his condition. But here Brass takes out his Bigfoot teammate. Ford, driven by Colt Cobra.
Now, Colt Cobra qualified in the heat of the day, lay down that second quick time, but that'll pay off dividends later on in the evening when the pairings come down, Gary.
Well, speaking of the pairings, the Colt would take on Brian Welsh in moving violation in round one. Welsh in the near lane.
I haven't seen that much of Welch on the tour this year, so Colt Cobra basically had an easy run in that first round.
So it's time to Army drop
Armstrong.
the gloves. During the break, Gene Patterson and Andy Brass were walking the track. Now, you'll notice Gene's wearing the garb of a crew member and not a driving suit. As you'll recall, Gene was suffering from heat exhaustion in Bloomsburg, was not able to run the finals a week ago. Earlier, Army spoke with Gene about the status of his condition.
Gary, normally when we're doing an interview with Gene Patterson, he's wearing his RJS driver safety suit. But, Gene, not the case tonight. You took a pretty big lick last week. What are you doing, just sitting out for a week or so?
Yeah, we're just kind of standing on the ground. We're really watching the truck. We put Dan Runte in the truck this weekend. Last weekend, I had some real bad luck. It was real hot outside. Along with the RJS fire suits, it put it about 115 degrees inside the cab, and I suffered some heat exhaustion. Bob Chandler wanted me to set out for the Ford Bigfoot team and maybe watch what the truck's doing and maybe get a better feel of what the truck's doing. Dan's doing a good job. You know, I can't say enough. And with the help of racing electronics and the radio systems, we're keeping in close communications, and we're doing a good job.
Hey, Fred, with that big wing, rolls over into the next round. But where does he roll over to? Look who's laying to the
right
left.
up against Andy Brass. But just how functional is that wing?
He won't tell us, but I asked him, I said, you either trying to advertise your business or what? And he said, no, with a 10,000-pound truck, the longer you can hold it in the air or put it on the ground, the more control you're going to have over it, the better you're going to be.
He didn't get too high in the air, and he stayed on the ground a little too long. There's an unusual shot there off the crush cam.
Ever wonder
Some
what
mechanical problems.
You ever wonder what a monster truck looks like from the bottom side up?
We'll take a look again. Andy Brass coming right at you, and he takes an easy win here in round 2.
Boy, if you look at the area in between the jumps, it's almost like an explosion when those big tires dig in and throw that mud up in the air. It's just awesome. Meanwhile, replay comes up. How about holding the right there?
And let's go down now and talk to Andy Brass.
Andy, there seems to be a lane developing out there that's one better than the other. Tell me about that.
Well, it looks like the left lane's pulling a little bit better. You know, we're running with we're always running on different, what you could say, different ground and everything. Out here with the dirt, now we're running into gravel in the right lane, and we're running in dirt in the left, and the left lane's doing a little bit better for us, you know. Firestone's been working with us. We've been running the Firestone tires. We're trying a different cut of tires out here. It seems to be working a little bit better in the left lane for us because the dirt is a little harder packed than what we are running in the gravel on the right.
In the far lane, Snakebite, Colt Cobra.
You know, Colt Cobra's not going to roll over for this Dodge in any way, shape, or form. You know, it's almost like Colt Cobra's coming back to its old form. Meanwhile, Fred Schaefer, he's just like a rock. He's tough no matter what happens. Two of the coolest in the sport, the young gun kid in the far lane out of Colorado. Snakebite, Ford-powered, BDS supercharger for horsepower, motor sets in the front. Meanwhile, Schaefer, the old pro, he's closest to it. New Dodge Concept Chrysler Hemi engine. You're on board with Schaefer? Let's take a ride, Gary.
You just can't feel the abuse those guys take when they land, but look at that ride by Colt Cobra. A good run by the Snakebite.
Check the light in the driver compartment. The night racing shows us something we don't normally get to see. A yellow light and a red light. That's an indication that the electronic kill switch is completely functional. Something else, I want you to look at the front wheels and the back wheels on Schaefer's. Back wheels are biting, front wheels are not. They're up in the air. He's trying to run on concrete or gravel, and it's just not holding any kind of horsepower for him in the lane closest to the camera. That's why Colt Cobra drilled him literally on that starting line, Gary.
So a big round 2 victory for Snakebite. Let's go trackside and talk to Colt Cobra. Here's Army.
Well, it's almost like a gang fight out there tonight.
Yeah, Army, it sure is. I could tell Freddie was making horsepower in his qualifying runs. He was putting down some really nice runs. Luckily, with the Snake, with the Firestones, we hooked up, put down a better ET, gave me lane choice over him. I decided to take the left lane. Snake was biting hard all the way down through there. As you saw, Freddie was still making horsepower, but just didn't get by us because we had the quicker ET against him.
Lane, Wildfoot the far lane. Now, we heard earlier from Andy Brass about the difference in lanes. Now, Fred finds himself once again in the near lane, which the drivers are calling the bad lane. Well, he's had some good luck by virtue of being the fast loser. He is back, but this could be a disadvantage. Let's see how he sees it. Fast runner, you get to pick your lane.
You know, that's exactly right, and Andy Brass knows that as well as anybody else. But once again, we're back on board with Fred Schaefer. Keep an eye on the left. That's where Bigfoot is. He's sitting off to your left. Barefoot, both drivers working into the lanes. They got a race. Boy, Brass
but
good.
Wildfoot, Brass all over him. He had that one almost immediately. He nailed the whole shot on that, perhaps once again, that starting line where Barefoot was spinning the tires in that loose gravel, and Andy was gone.
You can make all the power in the world, but you can't put it to the ground. It's not doing you any good. It's like swinging at the air.
A look one more time.
I see Brass is moving. Yeah, you're exactly
rear
right.
tires are spinning on Barefoot right there, and Brass is a length away in no man's land. And Brass, once again, will find himself in the finals. How often have we seen that?
Quite a few times. Again, look at the driver's window. Brass is in the lane and is occupying the yellow kill switch I was telling you about. That's that light in the window that you see shining all the time. If that light wasn't on, they wouldn't be running that race. Again, it's a safety precaution.
We're going to put you right in the cockpit now. Rod with Fred Schaefer from the in-cab camera over the first set of cars, no man's land, second set, and the rough landing. Let's go trackside, though, right now and talk to Andy Brass.
Andy, you know those Dodge boys are coming after you Ford boys big time. You just put one of the big guns away, though.
That's right. You know, the Ford Wildfoot's been running good for us. You know, we've been watching Fred and his Dodge. He's always been running good. He's been pulling some good times. We knew the thing we had to do was pull a lane choice. We run a fast time, got lane choice, put him over in the other lane, played with him a little bit on the line, played some head games, pulled down through there, and the Ford pulled away on him.
Okay, now, Andy, one of the things that Andy's talking about is when he talks about mind games and everything, lane choice is so important. The way the pairings come down is the top half of the field of 12, which means the first 6 run the bottom 6. So it's to your advantage to always go quicker than the guy you're racing against. That'll give you the option to pick the lane you're going to go into. That's exactly what he's talking about. As long as he can stay quicker than the other guys, he gets to pick the good lane. The other guy didn't get that option. Back to you, Gary.
Well, Army, now it's the Dodge Express against Colt Cobra. Now, Brass's 5.28 mirrors his quick qualifying time and is the best ET tonight. And the winner of this race has to best that mark. Unfortunately, the Dodge of Ken Deppy finds itself in the near lane. That is not the good lane to be in, so Colt Cobra has the fast lane.
Kind of reminds me of the guy that was standing at the airport when his ship came in. The Dodgers are drawing that bad lane tonight, and that is not the place to be.
Let me write that down. He was at the airport when his ship came in.
Meaning he's at the wrong place
at the wrong time. Well, the Dodge Express, Ken Deppy, the Dodgers may have arrived this evening, but so far they've not been quick enough for lane choice, and Colt Cobra will have the lane choice, the good lane at this point.
In this round, he's racing the Dodge, and he's racing the clock, trying to get lane choice in the next round. Look at this. Hard not to look at that, wouldn't it?
Colt Cobra takes it, but we'll have to check the time now. Colt goes a 5.33, so Andy will have the lane choice, and guess which lane he'll take.
I'd bet a month's pay. Your pay.
Yeah, my pay, thanks. All right, let's go back and take a look again. Colt Cobra, the far lane, gets the good jump right here. Hey, he won it right there.
Yeah, instantly. And these Dodge guys are running super. It's just that they can't stick all that Hemi horsepower.
A pair of Fords will match up side by side for the championship here in Springfield. Now let's talk to Colt Cobra.
Colt, it's almost like there's something magic in the air out there tonight.
Yeah, Army, the magic in the air is definitely Ford power. Ford power is just putting it to the ground. We got 2 Dodge boys we just took out. 2 real tough competitors here tonight. Luckily, we scrolled past both of them going into the finals. I just hope we can keep it together and come out with a win here tonight. We really need it.
Oh, those Ford boys are happy as they've Thunder drags Gary Lee along with Army Armstrong. Now, Colt Cobra told us earlier, the only thing that will beat a Ford is a Ford. And that's what we're going to have in the finals, a pair of Fords. And prior to the final go-around, Army spoke with both of the drivers.
Well, Gary, the final said it's going to be a Ford and Ford show, but right now, Andy Brass, this kid out of Colorado, has got blood in his eyes.
Yeah, that's right. You know, we've been watching the snake fight here tonight. You know, he's been running not all that great all year, and all of a sudden today he's been running real good. You know, we've been watching him on his times. We pull a fast time, he'd beat it. We pull a faster time, he'd beat it again, you know. So he's been with us all night tonight. Hope we can get him off the light, pull him down through there, and we hope the Ford can do it for us.
Colt, you and Andy Brass in the final. This is worth buying a ticket for.
Yeah, it sure is, Army. Like I said, we come out, we're working hard. We finally got the truck working right tonight. Things are going our way. We drew a tough competitor with the Wildfoot, but I think after tonight's service, you're going to see just how bad this snake really is this year.
I tell you something, Gary, this guy believes he can win out of the lane that nobody else can win out of. He still believes in himself. He thinks he can put that Wildfoot on a trailer.
Well, he has to get the horsepower down and not spin those tires to have a chance against Wildfoot and Andy Brass.
They leave side by side. It's close.
Brass has a problem. Brass has broken Wildfoot. Snakebite will take the victory. I don't know that Snakebite could have won from that lane had it not been for a mechanical problem in Wildfoot.
I'll tell you one thing. The only thing I know is the crowd is hissing in the background, making that snake sound. That's an indication that Colt Cobra is taking a win. A well-deserved win, too. He didn't let that lane intimidate him. Watch how they move. They a little far side. Andy got the jump on him. Colt went after him, but in no man's land, something went away on Andy Brass's
truck. You have to finish to win. Obviously, a problem with Wildfoot. Andy Brass, as they would say, dead in the water. And the victory goes to Snakebite and Colt Cobra. Right here, over that first set of cars, no man's land. He coasts to a stop.
Yeah, no smoke, no explosion, no fire. Something just broke on that truck. And he took a ride right there in that second jump.
It's like he took some abuse there as the truck comes to rest on top of the cars, but we have a winner, and the winner is Colt Cobra.
Well, Colt Cobra, what can I say, man? These people went crazy. That was just one heck of a run.
Yeah, I knew I was going to have to put it to it. Like I said, the only thing that was going to beat a Ford was a Ford. We came out here, we got thrown in a bad lane. Andy had lane choice. Like I said, I knew we were going to have to run hard, be strong. And like I said, we think we got it back together. We think we're going to do real good this year. Thank you.
There's the sign, and here he comes right at you from the crush cam as Colt Cobra takes the victory. We won't have a chance to talk to Andy Brass. He is still down there inside the cab of Wildfoot, so our congratulations once again to Colt Cobra. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on another edition of Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news and exciting bit.
I'm standing in now called no man's land, but when you get to the other end, that's the throw part. You literally got to roll and throw if you're going to win in Springfield, Missouri. Back to you, Gary.
At Army, a good example of that technique took place in qualifying by none other than Andy Brass. Laid down the quickest run in Wildfoot.
Yeah, if you'll notice now, you hear him back out of the throttle after that first roll part, and then when he throws it, he goes into the throttle.
Well, that roll and throw can also throw you a curve, as Andy's teammate Dan Runty shows us in qualifying. Dan, who is still subbing for Gene Patterson, was the second quick qualifier on the day. Now, notice right here that pop as he backfires the Ford Bigfoot.
That could indicate some type of a major timing problem. We'll have to keep our eye on that.
Colt Cobra and Snakebite. Colt would take out Ron Nelson, who's driving for Scott Stevens in the Auto Value King Crunch Chevrolet.
But the untold story in this round, as we get ready to go into round two, is that every winner in round one came out of the far lane. That will not happen again, Gary. Somebody's got to go in the other lane.
Yeah, well, Wildfoot with Andy Brass.
Gary, this is the reason that qualifying is so important, because you always go back to your previous round, whether it be a round of elimination or a round in qualifying for lane choice. If you're quicker than me, you get lane choice. Andy the man Brass is quicker than the Dodge, so where is he going? Far lane.
Well, we'll go back to round one now as he took out Mark Hall in the Executioner.
Look what lane he's in.
Now, he's in that far lane.
Andy's building the nest over there, and I don't blame him a bit.
And look at the suspension travel on that Wildfoot Ford. What a work of art. As we take a look at Don Van Loo out of Jefferson City, Missouri. Not really that far from St. Louis, where Andy's from.
Oh, and this is the community that has so many monster truck drivers there. I think there are like 9 trucks based out of Jeff City, but right now he's got his heart, mind, and everything full of a big Ford called Wildfoot. He knows he's got a handicap lane.
Well, with the handicap lane, he takes the truck over the crush cam, and Andy Brass takes the victory in the Ford. So the Ford advances, and we'll have to wait and see if by chance Don Van Loo would be the fast loser, that he also could advance.
Well, as a replay comes up on the screen, I want you to notice the headlight or the light in the middle of the driver's compartment. That's the indication we've talked about before in other shows of the electronic kill switch that's operated away from the monster truck. It's a safety feature, and that light in there with the driver is an indication of which channel, in this case the yellow channel, that particular truck is running on with this kill box.
Well, as Andy Brass pulls back to the paddock area, we'll take a look at Fred Schaefer coming up in barefoot. Dodges go out at that time. Now we have a pair of Fords. There's a look at Snakebite with Colt Cobra out of Cobra Creek, Colorado. And he pulls alongside the Bigfoot Ford of Dan Runty. And again, Dan subbing for Gene Patterson, who's taking a couple of weeks off after heat exhaustion.
You talk about sitting in a hot seat. Gene Patterson comes over to take over for Andy Brass in a truck they knew was a world champion caliber, and Runty has to come in and take his place. And this kid is doing a yeoman's job. This kid's a good little driver.
We go back to round one. John Moore in the near lane, and no problem, but he had a problem right here by virtue of the lane, really.
Well, earlier the drivers were saying how nice the facility was. Right now, if you got to run that right lane, it's about as much fun as kissing your sister. Nobody wants to do that.
And there's a look at the Snakebite, Colt Cobra. And he pulls alongside the Bigfoot Ford, Dan Runty. So it's Ford against Ford here in round two.
Notice the yellow light on the right and the orange light on the left. That's a kill equipment we were talking about.
Remember, the fast loser will come back. Oh, look at that. Snakebite got him.
Yeah. Hey, how about that?
Snakebite got him.
So the streak continues. Every win so far tonight, every win has come out of the same lane.
And it looks like Ken Deppy will be our fast loser, entitling him to come back for more competitions. Once again, we take a look at the battle of the boards. Oh, good jump. Good hole shot right there by Snakebite.
You got a good race. There's two well evenly matched trucks. The lane's the big difference.
Right there is the margin of victory as we go down trackside to visit with our victor, Colt Cobra.
I'll tell you what, Colt, I'm going to make it short and sweet. You're putting these other guys in their place tonight.
Yeah, Army, I'm trying. Like I said, we had a lot of problems earlier. I think we got them dialed in. Truck's working real good. Ford's making the horsepower. Firestone's putting it to the ground. I'm taking it to the line, and I'm putting them on the trailer. Snake is definitely back.
Your truck's over. There's some...
Well, this is what the people buy the tickets to see. These guys are starting to develop followings. People are starting to pull for them, whether you like one or the other, your manufacturer, personalities, or what have you. But when it comes down to this point in time, it's just a four-way shootout, Gary.
But we have seen throughout the weeks the coming of the Dodge, the coming of Fred Schaefer and his operation, more competitive every week. And now Ken Deppy and the Dodge Express as well.
Chrysler Corporation is coming out and going after Ford. They realize that this monster truck, the identity here, basically in a nutshell, you win with the monster truck, you're going to sell the new Dodge Dakotas. That's what the name of the game is.
That has been the philosophy of motorsports for the last about 10 decades or so. Since the car first came out, they started racing like at Indianapolis in 1911. There's a shot from inside the cab of Fred Schaefer. Oh, Schaefer does the wheelie, and that cost him the win.
Boy, the kid out of Colorado takes the big Ford into the next round, Gary.
Colt Cobra took advantage of that big wheelie that Fred pulled in no man's land.
That sets up half the final. It's going to be a Ford. Who's going to go in the other lane?
Well, before we find that out, we'll take a look once again at this victory for Colt Cobra. But here in no man's land, watch Fred pull the front end.
Sure, he was trying to go after him, but once again, Gary, so far tonight, every race has been won out of that lane.
So it's imperative to have the quickest run for lane selection.
Exactly. If I drew that other lane, I'd just take the tires off and go home, I think.
Ah, you wouldn't. If you're a racer, you're going to be competitive no matter what lane. You're going to give it your best shot. Right here, here's a happy winner.
Tell you what, you just put one of the big Dodge boys away.
Yeah, those Dodge boys, when they come here, they mean business, but this just goes to prove that when we're going out, we're giving 110% because they're giving 100%. We're coming out on top tonight.
You know, Gary, one of the things I was noticing, look here on his helmet. Not only says Simpson, this is the philosophy of the whole team. No fear.
Well, now it's going to be, again, Dodge versus Ford. There's Ken Deppy, the Dodge Express. They've hammered out that front suspension problem, and he is ready to meet up against Andy Brass in Wildfoot. The winner, of course, will meet Snakebite for the championship. And, of course, Andy has that quick lane, the far lane. Earlier, Army caught up with Brass, who had these comments prior to the semis.
Andy, it's almost weird how this pairing's coming down with Dodge and Ford.
It is, you know, it's been real high racing tonight, you know, and the Dodge has been running real well. The Ford's been running real well. You know, we've been doing a good job with it. Thanks to guys like MSD, ignitions, you know, BDS blowers and stuff like that. We're producing some good horsepower out here tonight. The track's starting to bite good, you know. The Firestones are doing us a good job out here. And all we can do is go on into the next round. I think we got lane choice. We pulled a fast time that round. So we're going to try to play a little head game, show them in the other lane. We'll put them on the light a little bit and pull them down through the track.
The fans love the competition, and the competition gets tighter every week.
And Wildfoot's in the good lane. I'll be up front with you on this one.
Yeah, if you're going to bet a shilling, bet on Wildfoot in the far lane.
That's saying nothing against the Dodge. That's just laying it on the table. Oh!
Over the crush cam. Good run for Ken Deppy, but once again, it was that far lane.
We got an all-Ford final, Gary Lee. The question is, who is the quickest? Who gets the good lane?
Well, that's the question. I had the answer. Andy turns a 5:26, bettering his overall quick ET. That means he will have lane choice, and guess which lane he is going to take. Army?
This Ken Deppy can rock and roll with the best of them, can he, Andy?
Yeah, he can. You know, we've been watching Ken there earlier. He's been turning in some good times with the truck. You know, that's one of Fred's old trucks. The truck proved itself last year, you know, so all he had to do was get him a good driver. I think Ken is doing a good job at driving. We've been watching the track, watching these times. We knew we had to go out there and run hard. We pulled it through with the Ford.
It's going to be an all-Ford final from Springfield, Snakebite, and Wild. One last pass for the championship.
Yeah, and it'll go down in history, Gary, as the night that Lanes won and lost a monster truck race. Because so far, every win has come out of the same lane, Gary Lee.
That's the first time, I think, ever in monster truck competition that's happened. And during the break, Army, you spoke with both the drivers going into the finals.
Colt Cobra built this truck to prove that he could be the best Ford monster truck in the country. Well, time to lay the cards on the table, Colt.
Yeah, definitely the cards are on the table. We made it this far going into the final round there with Wildfoot, another good running Ford. Definitely a hard card. Like I said earlier, 110% is what it's going to take to win here today, and this truck right here is definitely 110% Snake all the way.
Gary, I'm standing down the pit area with Andy Brass, and Andy very bluntly. This guy says he can handle you tonight.
Well, like I said, we've been watching the snake truck there all night tonight. He's been turning out some good times. We've been turning out good times with this one. You know, the truck's running good for us. You know, it is a 2-Ford final, so that's all I'm really looking at. I'm glad to see that, you know, but I think we're going to concentrate on it. We're going to pull a lane choice on him, put him over in a bad lane right now. He's been running the left lane all night. We're going to put him in the right lane, play a little head games with him, and we're going to pull him down through there.
The strategy is well rehearsed.
No, the strategy's the same. He says the same thing over because he does the same thing over, and he keeps winning, so I wouldn't change anything myself, Andy.
And, of course, he's the quick one, so he has lane choice. Far lane, Andy Brass.
Hey, we do have a race, though. Check this out.
And it is. Yeah, it is Andy, though, but, boy, he had all he could handle.
He could hear that snake hissing. Yeah, he could hear the old snake hissing on him.
Andy Brass by what? A fender.
A fang, buddy. A fang and no more.
He defanged the snake bite on that one. So here in Springfield, you can hear the fans cheering. They're very happy for Wildfoot and Andy Brass. We take one more look. It was a side-by-side shootout that went the distance.
Well, Colt Cobra come out of there with him, Gary.
Take another look, and once again, about a fender was the difference in the far lane as we go down to victory lane and Andy Brass.
Andy, congratulations, but answer a question to me. How do you guys get these big 10,000-pound trucks to move so quick off that starting line? You were doing a wheelie.
Well, that's thanks to guys like BDS, MSD Ignition, Firestone Tires. You know, we're building some horsepower with the motor here. You know, we're running a Ford Hemi here, which a lot of people there's really having a lot of doubts about it, but the motor's been doing us a real good job. You know, and thanks to the guys, we're building horsepower with the motor, and thanks to guys like Firestone Tires there, you know, we're putting all the horsepower to the ground, pulling off the line real well. You know, we're going down between the cars. The track's been getting a little tacky tonight, so we've been pulling some good traction down through there, and we're just cutting some real nice times tonight.
We've talked a lot, Army, about the roll and throw, but the best place to do that tonight was in the far lane. Every victor came from the far lane, a first time ever in monster truck competition. They're coming right at you now as we take a look once again from the crush cam. And that was indeed the best run from the near lane, but not fast enough to beat that man right there. Our congratulations once again to Andy Brass, who wins in the Show Me State, in fact, his home state. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now here's news. A lot of body damage, but Mark was uninjured. Also in qualifying, Andy Brass will have the fast time in Wildfoot. Here is his run.
Worked out of the left lane. The truck does what it's supposed to do. Look how soft it lands. Brass goes to the head of the class as far as qualifying goes. You know that's important to get the confidence back in your truck.
Also a highlight from round one and a mismatch. Rick Rattler driving the snakebite in the near lane, taking on a Ford leaf spring truck called Night Stalker, driven by Steve Combs, who didn't offer the snake much of a fight. We're coming back to the 10-truck field. We have quick losers in both the first and second rounds. Now, Gene Patterson went up against Andy Brass. That's a matchup that we've seen many times before. They actually met in round one. Bigfoot was the fast loser. He comes back. Then it's USA 1 against Snakebite, and Magnum Force will take on Barefoot. So there are the matchups now for round two here in Canfield, Ohio. Once again, a pair of Fords out of St. Louis, Missouri, Bigfoot and Wildfoot. Andy Brass in the latest creation of Bob and Marilyn Chandler in the far lane. And there's a look at Andy Brass from St. Louis, and he'll be taking on his old buddy Gene Patterson in his old truck, Bigfoot.
I don't know about this old buddy thing. They've already bumped heads once earlier today. This is that race.
Yeah, this was back in round one. Now, once again, the 10-truck field, the fast loser comes back. So Wildfoot with Andy Brass victorious, but Gene Patterson and Bigfoot was the fast loser. So they have a chance to come back and run each other a second time.
And I like that rule because what it does, it keeps racing in front of the fans. And also it gives incentive to the guy that you may get beat, but as long as you run hard through the back door, you might be coming back. Point in hand, Patterson and Bigfoot.
Pair of Fords out of St. Louis. Oh, look at this, even closer.
You call it.
I can't, Army. I can't call it. That was almost a dead heat. Andy Brass's time is 5.26. We'll take a look now at the time for Gene Patterson, a 5.30. So by an eyelash, Wildfoot advances. We take a look again at that run, and I really think that Bigfoot could come back again as the fast loser. Here's the winner, Andy Brass.
Andy, a unique situation. Even though you guys keep beating on each other, you're still trying to bring one of you back into a loser bracket as quick loser of that round. So really, you guys can still go against each other in the next round.
Yeah, that's right. You know, we kind of got a bad draw here early on in the bracket, and we had to face each other early. And now all we're doing is coming back as fast loser. They got the fast loser up in the top bracket, and it seems like all we're going to do today is just pretty well race ourselves. We got to keep our times up so we keep coming back as fast losers, so we still staying in the brackets.
Andy, you keep getting lane choice by virtue of having the quick time. Why do you go to the left side of the track?
Well, one of the reasons I like the left side is I think it's a little easier for me to see the lights, you know, and we're trying to pull a good light here, and that's a big thing all in this whole bracket of racing. Everybody's running so close that the lights are going to be a big part in this program this year.
There's a look at Rick Rattler in Snakebite, and behind that you saw the USA truck owned by Everett Jasmer, driven today by Kirk Dabney. Now, Kirk is out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, but the truck itself comes from Ham Lake, Minnesota.
You know, we're starting to see appearances of this truck on the circuit. A lot of people ask about it. Dabney's teamed up with Everett, like you say, but nobody's really making 100% commitment to bring that truck back on the circuit, in my opinion. Meanwhile, this kid is the second driver in the line of the Snakebite truck. Rick Rattler, they're teaming up making horsepower. We found out the crew members there, they call them the Rabbit and the Honker, and they're in charge of the research and development. And this kid's coming up as a second driver. He could be the future of the sport.
Once again, this is round 2 action from Canfield, Ohio. It's all Snakebite.
I'll tell you one thing, the old Rabbit and the Honker are flat making a horsepower, and this kid, he's a driver, Gary Lee.
Yeah, Rick Rattler's getting the horsepower down. A good ride. There are the times for both Dabney and the Rattler as Dabney goes back to the trailer, and the Rattler will advance as we take another look. Oh, look at him coming out of the gate. Look at him pick the front end up. A great ride. Let's go down trackside and talk to Rick Rattler.
Rick, USA 1 normally can kind of intimidate people. It doesn't seem like anybody bothers you out there.
No, nobody really has today, Army. You know, we had a real good race there against USA 1. He got me out of the hole, but the Ford Snakebite's really running well. We've been running right lane all day, and the truck seems to be carrying the front tires over the first set of cars and just been doing an outstanding job of going straight in that lane, and I really want to come back in that lane.
Through that quick loser bracket, sanctioned body, good move. It keeps them racing hard.
Well, you'll recall after his second round run, Ken Deppy was talking about some suspension problems on the Dodge Barefoot. Army has this follow-up.
Barefoot was talking about problems they have with their limiter cable, so I thought I'd show you what it is and what it's for. It's this cable right here, and what it does, it keeps the shock absorber from coming apart. The shock absorber is designed to stretch out, but this cable, once the shock absorber goes to maximum length, it actually stops it from going any further and keeps the shock together. Now, this particular vehicle has 2 shocks. Each shock's $1,500. So if this cable were to snap or malfunction and the front end stretch all the way out, you're going to lose $3,000 worth of shock absorbers instantly.
Cheap cable that does a rather expensive job. All right, we are ready now for side-by-side action. The semis, far lane. Barefoot, the Dodge, near lane, the Ford Snakebite. Rattler against Deppy.
New kid on the block in the far lane. New kid on the block this lane. The future of the sport, that's what we're looking at. Boy, wheels up start for Snakebite. Deppy trying to muscle him on the other end.
Oh, which was it? Almost a dead heat. Who won that one, Army?
Man, I don't have any idea.
Well, let's check the times. Deppy's a 5:26, 5:25. You can't get any closer than that.
Oh, man, oh, man.
By the eyelash.
That's what I like. The sports keeps going and growing. Here's 2 new drivers, okay? Driving good equipment. Their mentors are back building better equipment.
Yeah, and let's talk to what has to be a happy Rick Rattler.
Boy, you just took one of the heavy hitters out of this game.
Yeah, we knocked the Dodge out with the Ford Snakebite. You know, we bit him pretty tough, and I don't think, you know, this weekend's going to be a good weekend for the Dodgers, but all in all, we're out to see who wins in the finals.
It's going to be a good weekend for the Fords because they're going to be right there. There's one of them, Wildfoot, with Andy Brass, and there is the front of a 2-time fast loser, but right here he is, the semis. That is a Bigfoot with Gene Patterson.
This is called a deja vu round. We've seen this one before,
two deja vus today.
But that you don't race behind you, you race in front of you. Those things behind us just got him to this point. He can still, Gene Patterson, when I say he can still be a player, and, you know, maybe he's learned something these previous 2 rounds.
We have seen how close these 2 rounds have been. Now, can Wildfoot beat Bigfoot 3 times in one afternoon?
Would that be called a hat trick in this sport, Gary Lee?
That'd be the trifecta. I don't know that Bigfoot has ever been beaten 3 times.
Let's see a third time's charm. I believe it is. I think Foot got him.
I don't know. It's mighty close.
I think
you're
he
right.
Whoa.
Hang on there. Gene almost drove her out to the paddock right there.
We don't have a paddock in this sport. It's called a driveway. Brass goes a 5.18. That rolls him over. But let's see. Bingo!
Yes!
All
Gene
right.
Patterson has taken out Wildfoot. Let's look one more time.
Third time charm in Canfield for the big, bad blue truck.
Patterson kept coming back as the fast loser, round 1, round 2, and he takes out Wildfoot. Let's look again.
Remember the old rock and roll song, Devil with the Blue Dress On? Well, she's dancing right now.
And she'll be dancing in the finals here
That's
at
right.
Canfield as Gene Patterson knocks out Andy Brass. So,
And scares the security guard.
you know, our remote truck's parked right behind that fence there. That was very close. Now we'll go down and talk to Gene Patterson as he climbs out.
Well, I tell you what, you just seem to be on a good roll today. Andy, you know, he bumped you twice, but you didn't let it bother you. You just kind of ran your race, and you're going to the final.
That's right, Army. You know, the Ford Bigfoot team, we're working real hard this weekend. You know, both these trucks are running real good. We got another Ford, it seems like down in the bottom part of the bracket, that'd be that snakebite truck. You know, these Fords are working good here this weekend. We're real tickled to death. Wiseco Pistons right here in Ohio. Got a little bit extra boost in the motor on it. You know, we're just doing fine. We're really tickled. 3 times the charm, you know.
Indeed, third time's a charm. Gene Patterson, the Ford Bigfoot in the finals against the Ford Snakebite, and Rick Rattler all coming your way from Canfield. Time now for the finals, a classic shootout. The matchup between the Ford Snakebite and the Ford Bigfoot. Now, these two have seen a lot of each other this weekend. In fact, the same 2 trucks met in the finals earlier. Last night, on the first date of the Canfield stop, it was all Gene Patterson as Rick Rattler had some engine problems. But back to today's finals, earlier, Army had a chance to visit with both the drivers in today's championship shootout.
Gary, going into the final, you know there's some pressure, but Gene Patterson, the guy going to be sitting in the other lane from you, built his truck just to beat you. Is that any more pressure?
Yeah, you know, Army, Snake's been running real good this weekend. He's taken us out a couple of times in a couple other races. There's a lot of pressure on us, but as the old saying goes, it's going to take a Ford to beat a Ford in the finals here this weekend.
We've been talking about the Dodge and Ford rivalry all year long. Well, this guy stopped the Dodge end of it today. It's going to be an all-Ford final.
Yeah, it is, Army. You know, the Ford Snakebite's really been running well today, and I'm glad it is an all-Ford final. The Ford's been running tough this whole weekend, and I guess what I really want to say is the crew's been doing a real good job of keeping the truck running. I really feel confident in the motor, the transmission. You know, we're getting good traction off the line thanks to Firestone, but it all goes to show Fords are the best.
All right, here they are for the finals. Snakebite, the far lane. Bigfoot, the near lane.
Crew members side by side. The drama's up. We told you the story. They contacted the group they call Rabbit and a Honker about the horsepower, and they told them what to do. It's put them in the final. Let's see what's going to happen now. Ironically, look at the lane Bigfoot decided to choose. He's gone over to the lane that not a lot of people want to mess with because of that little downgrade, but Patterson's comfortable in it, Gary.
All right, they are staged. There is the light. They are underway, and it's going to be Gene Patterson.
Whoa,
Bigfoot, can you believe it? Twice he came back as the fast loser, then knocked out Wildfoot and Andy Brass, makes it to the finals, and then knocks out Snakebite. Rick Rattler.
Yeah, a 528, a strong run, making all kind of horsepower. Patterson, a 520, but that ought to tell the youngsters out there something. You don't quit. Patterson believed in himself. He believed in the crew. He knew he could keep working his way back in, and that's exactly what he did. That's a good classic race.
He also got faster with each run. And there is a look at your winner as he unbuckles, about to climb out of Bigfoot. Army, go over there and catch up with Gene Patterson.
Tell you what, Gene, it was like a gunfight out there. Both of you came off that line like a rocket.
Yeah, you know, I've been watching Snakebite run all day long, and it seems like he's really getting out of the hole real fast. You know, the Ford Bigfoot, we were going to make a gear change for the final, but we were real safe with the gears we've been running after we beat the Wildfoot truck. We felt real good about it. Hey, you know, we just figured it's going to be a dog-eat-dog track down through there, and I'm just glad the Firestone's hooked up for me in between and settled down real nice when we're at the Trailmaster. We're running new MSD crank trigger on here, and it seems like it's giving me all the power, and all I got to do is just handle the truck.
Well, our congratulations to Gene. Well, I'll put a shilling or two on this guy right here because he got off to a good start right off the bat. Andy Brass in Wildfoot for the second time this weekend is your quick qualifier.
Yeah, but at this point in time, the quick qualifier just gets your lane choice. Rick Radler comes out, goes a 523, yanking the front wheels, powering it in no man's land. He could definitely be a player.
He's the second quick qualifier this afternoon.
Exactly.
Now on to round one, and watch this wild run by Wildfoot, but Andy Brass taking on Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol was still able to turn in what would be the quickest ET of round one. But the best race of round one pitted the second fast qualifier in the Ford Snakebite, taking on Kirk Dabney in the USA 1 Chevrolet, and with the 10-truck format, Dabney would come back as the quick loser and advance to round two. And that's exactly where we're headed, along with the Snakebite fans, right after these messages. Welcome back to the Canfield Fairgrounds in Canfield, Ohio for the Penda Monster Truck Thunder Drags. Gary Lee along with Army Armstrong. Now, we spoke of the fatigue factor at the head of the show, and right now Army's standing by with a driver with a very tired and beat-up Bigfoot. Here's Gene Patterson.
Tell me about the fatigue factor, not of you, the driver, but the equipment that you're driving.
Well, Army, you know, we've run 4 races here in Canfield, Ohio this weekend. Ford Bigfoot, we put a lot of pounding on these trucks, and they're really starting to show up today. You know, we haven't really had the time to get the trucks up to 100%. We've done everything we could back in the pits, thinking that we had a handle on it, but now we've came out here, we've been a couple of sway bars up. We've got the truck leveled up as good as we can, and, you know, we feel real confident going into the next round, but we're just going to have to wait and see how it comes out.
Well, here now is a look at that run in qualifying where Gene bent the sway bar and posting a 550 ET, which in this field was only good enough for the 5th spot in today's program.
You know, it's amazing the speeds that you have to run to be competitive, and yeah, you got to qualify to get in the show.
Well, luckily for Gene, he would have an easy time of drawing the leaf spring truck of Steve Combs, the Night Stalker, and so the Night Stalker goes to the trailer, and he will pull alongside Andy Brass in Wildfoot, the Ford out of St. Louis. There's a look at the latest creation from the shops of Bob and Marilyn Chandler.
Well, I tell you, these people have literally dominated this Penda Thunder Drag Series as it goes across the country. Everywhere we go, Gary, more and more keep coming out, and this is why they do it. They want to see the Chevys, the Fords, the Dodges go head-to-head. That's what they're getting right now. What's going to happen? You take the call. Whoa!
Brass is in trouble. Andy Brass, I think, was just DQ'd. He just lost to Kirk Dabney at a 576, but I think we'll see a disqualification for Andy Brass.
The rule reads that both front tires must hit the obstacle. In this case, the obstacle is the second jump. Let's check and see if the front tires did indeed miss the obstacle. Meanwhile, Kirk Dabney in his far lane is doing what he does best, going the other end. Missed it.
Yeah, only the left side hit, so let's go talk to Kirk.
Hey, congratulations.
Well, let's take a look once again at what happens to Andy Brass, the near lane. Now, he's disqualified right about here because that right side front tire did not hit the obstacle. And Andy Brass is now a spectator.
Andy, the truck looked like it just didn't react to you.
I did. You know, we switched lanes here. We was having little problems between the cars. We was turning in some good times. But like I say, the lane was starting to pull us down there. It was a little wet. We went to the other lane, you know, just pulled us right off the line. It was just a bad judgment call, I guess, on our part.
Another matchup of manufacturers coming up with Dodge and Ford. It'll be Ken Deppy in the Dodge Express against Gene Patterson in the Ford Bigfoot. There's a look at Ken Deppy out of Jefferson City, Missouri, which is right next door to St. Louis, basically.
Yeah, I would venture to say, as Patterson comes up on the screen from St. Louis, the state of Missouri probably has more per capita monster trucks than any state in the union. I'll tell you something about this Deppy kid I like. You veterans have noticed it just as well as I do. He wears the MIAPOW patch on his uniform. I appreciate that. Meanwhile, he's going up against Patterson in the far lane. Corporate America is watching this like a rocket ride.
Dodge near lane, Ford the far lane. Patterson picks the front. Look at this. Who won that thing?
I'm saying the
I
big
think
red.
Deppy.
Yeah.
I think Deppy. And yeah, look at that time. 5-2-0. The Dodge Express has just knocked out the Ford Bigfoot. Well, some surprises here in round 2 in Canfield.
Far lane initial move was Bigfoot's, but Deppy right here settles down and just like an interior lineman gets mean.
This kid has to be ecstatic. Let's talk to Ken Deppy. Deppy's part as we get a chance to watch another battle between Ford and Dodge. There's Rick Rattler.
Now, Rattler, the second-generation driver for this vehicle, the main driver, Colt Culver, is doing research and development to make more horsepower with the Rabbit and the Honker. Like a comic strip deal. But right now, there is some serious monster truck racing on this line. Dodge is grinning from ear to ear. They got one guy in the next round. Can Fred Schaefer roll over to go against him?
Now there's Fred Schaefer in Barefoot out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois. All right, let's see what this Dodge can do against the Ford. The Ford, the near lane, the Dodge, the far lane.
Look for a wheels up start. And watch the Dodge in no man's land. Wheels up on this side. See what the Dodge does in the middle. Whoa!
Snakebite carries him, but remember, the fast loser comes back. Let's check the times now.
Man, oh man, that was a race.
Fred Schaefer, good run in a losing effort there at 5.26. However, that could be quick enough to get him back as the fast loser. 5.15 for Rick Rattler.
Yeah, the old Rabbit Honker horsepower go to 5.15. That's look at here. Wheels up. Now he doesn't even set him down. Does a wheelie all the way through no man's land.
Just does touch the front end down before he hits that second jump. Here's Rick Rattler.
It had to be close.
It was real close, Army. The Ford Snakebite's really hooking up good down here, though. Like, you know, it's pulling the wheels in between the cars up there, in between the first and second set of cars, a little higher than we'd like to see, but we're going to have to live with it, and we'll just come back and run it like that all day if we have to.
We'll see the snake in the semi.
You know, he's talking about a 10,000-pound racing vehicle, and that's exactly the same thing you do with a 1,000-pound racing vehicle.
There's a look at the Snakebite truck with Rick Rattler. He'll be alongside Ken Deppy's Dodge Express. Now, last night, the Rattler was involved in a wild semifinal run with Andy Brass in Wildfoot. Talk about lifting the front end. Watch these two guys. Look at Brass.
Yeah, and it'll prove that when a race is over, it's not always at the finish line. Watch the far truck.
Oh, man, Brass up on his nose, over on his left side. He almost rolled that thing over.
Whew. Better he than me, Gary Lee.
Well, that was last night. Now we're back to action this afternoon here in Canfield. We look into the cockpit of Ken Deppy. He drives the Dodge Express. There is the look inside the cockpit of Snakebite.
Told you about the research and development going on with the Ford horsepower with the Rabbit and the Honker. The question, can they get past the Mopar Express? Whoa, kid, wheels up start. No man's land. Who's got it, Gary?
Oh, who does have it? Who does have it?
Yumpin' Yemeni, what a race.
That didn't answer my question.
I don't know. It was that good. 5:36 to Deppy. Okay, let's watch the clock.
I will wait now for that time to come up on Rick Rattler. There it is, 5:30. 6/100ths of a second difference. Here is the replay. Rick Rattler wins it.
Chassis difference is one of them's going to finish up, the other one's going to finish down. Let's see who's going to take the win. One a Ford, one a Dodge. Ford's up, Dodge is down, Ford goes to the circle.
6/100ths of a second would look like. So Ford takes the victory over Dodge. Now, talk about photo finishes. How about this one for an instant replay? The last race we brought you from Canfield, it was another Ken Deppy, Rick Rattler shootout involving a virtual photo finish, and once again, the Snake won it, and he's standing by right now with Army Armstrong.
You put the big Dodge out.
Yeah, we got one Dodge out, Army, but we got another one in the finals. The Ford Snakebite's really running well. You know, I made a little slower pass that time than I made the time before. Cut a bad light. I can't blame it on the truck at all. We just got to go out and cut a better light, and I think we can get him again.
Final time here in Canfield, Ohio. This should be a wild one. Rick Rattler in Snakebite taking on the Barefoot Dodge of Fred Schaefer. And Army had a chance to talk to both drivers and get their thoughts prior to the final event.
Gary, the final's going down not only as a Dodge Ford setup, which has got the crowd buzzing, but one of the old-time drivers, Fred Schaefer, is going up against the new kid on the block, Ricky Rattler. Does that bother you at all, his experience?
No, Army, his experience really doesn't bother me. The Ford Snakebite's been running really well today, and I think we can really get him in the finals.
Starting line's going to win or lose this race. I'm going to be real honest with you.
That's right, Army. You know, if you don't cut a good light, these lanes are so close in comparison that it'll be a tough race. You know, you got to get out of that hole, and you got to run down there hard.
Barefoot against Snakebite. Well, Barefoot was in the finals last night and lost to Wildfoot. The trucks have never met in the finals during the 93 Penda Series. That's the first.
Advantage has got to go to Schaefer. He's an old drag racer. He's been around a long time. I'm not taking anything away from the kid, but, man, time in the seat, this is where it pays dividends. They'll leave together. You watch to see if Schaefer doesn't settle down in the middle.
Oh, he's spinning his wheel.
Yeah,
He lost it right there. Rick Rattler lost it right there, trying to cut a good light. He sat there at the line, spinning the tires.
I think what happened, he lost his front-wheel drive on that vehicle. Or he lost his rear-wheel drive. He did not have four-wheel drive. I can say that. Watch this.
Take a look again.
Okay, the front wheels only are turning. See, the rear wheels are barely tracking. Meanwhile, Schaefer, he caught the first thing smoking and went to the other end.
So Fred Schaefer, after losing to Wildfoot last night here in Canfield, comes back to take the victory here this afternoon. And let's go down to victory lane.
Long showdown area came in handy here on this one.
And the class qualifier yesterday would be Rick Rattler and Snakebite. Now, once again, this was the day before we talked about all the rain. Yesterday was kind of dry, not bad conditions for qualifying.
Yeah, all the drivers were tickled to death with the situation. However,
this is
only
today.
people happy today are the little
This
duckies.
is what it looks like out there right now. Round one competition. It was Rick Rattler, the fast qualifier, against Brian Welsh in moving violation. And it was all Rick Rattler. Welsh had nothing for Snakebite.
As a matter of fact, when Welsh left the starting line, all four wheels just spun. He literally just slid to it.
Well, also in round one, we saw Andy Brass in Wildfoot, who was the number 2 qualifier, meet up with Paul Schaefer's Monster Patrol, and it was all Mr. Brass.
Yeah, but the shutdown area provided a little bit of activity for us, too.
Well, they did all that shutdown area here this weekend because of the very wet conditions here in Indianapolis. Wildfoot, and look at the mud, look at the rain. It is just a quagmire out here, but the fans are here and the monsters are here.
You know, any other kind of motorsport, everybody would have been back in the hotel right now talking. That's not the case with these monster guys. They came to race, they're going to race. Rick Rattler, this kid's making a name for himself. The owner of the truck, Colt Cobra, is out doing some research and development. He puts Rick in the seat. Rick's going to go up against Ken Deppie out of Jeff City, Missouri. Again, another driver that somebody picked to go into that seat. Fred Schaefer picked Deppie to go into the seat of the number 2 Dodge.
These are kind of hired guns out there right now, and there's the shootout, round 2. Hey, look at this. Well, there's a breakage on the big red Dodge, and Rattler and Snakebite will advance.
Boy, they're drilling some decent times. What happened? Deppie came off that first jump a little bit crooked. Rules say you've got to hit the second jump with your front tires. He knew he wasn't going to do it, so instead of tearing something up, check the replay out. He just very wisely backpedaled right here. Now watch when he comes off. See, he's crooked right now.
Meanwhile, Rick Rattler sails to the victory, and he's with Army.
Ricky, you guys have really got your hands full out there. You're not only racing a truck in the other lane, you're racing your lane. You're trying to drive your truck on a really less than ideal situation.
That's right, Army. You know, it's really rough out there. Penda Point Series today, you know, it was really dry, and it was nice last night. We did a good qualifying time. We ended up qualifying first, and we're not really changing anything as far as driving habits with this truck just because it weighs a little more than everybody else's, and it seems to be hooking up. You know, me and my crew chief, Kenny, we talked about it, and Hervey, and we worked it out at the beginning of the show, and so far it's working, so we'll see what happens.
As round 2 action continues, we look at the Hawk, a newcomer to the Penda Point Series. This is Guy Wood.
Normally, Gary, Guy comes on a book basis. This is open competition. His graphic comes up. You notice a beautiful truck, the graphics on the truck. The drivers are really taking their time to get their own identity. We told you before about the yellow and orange stripe down the side of Bigfoot. That's an indication that it is the racing version of Bigfoot that Gene Patterson out of St. Louis will be driving in this round. I'm glad to see this kid come over and go racing in a Chevrolet. The Hawk, a beautiful truck, new kid on the block. Hopefully, he'll make a name for himself, because so far the Dodge and Fords have been dominating, manhandling this Penda Point Series.
First half of the race was close. Second half, look at that. It was all Ford, Bigfoot, Gene Patterson.
I think experience has a lot to do with that. A 5.76, Gary, that's an awfully good time considering the conditions they're running in.
7:13 for Guy Wood. Again, very close off the starting gate. However, the second half of the run was all experience.
Yeah, you're exactly right. When it settled down in no man's land. But then again, look at the rain. I mean, folks, it's raining hard here. It's not just a little It's a rainstorm going on, and we're racing. We're going to take it right to the end.
All the fans are trying to sneak back up underneath the grandstand to stay dry here in the...
Same as our producer and director. We're the ones standing out in the rain.
Yeah. They're back in the remote truck where it's dry and warm.
Well, Fred Schaefer rolled out of Pontoon Beach, Illinois in a brand new truck. When I say brand new, I mean it. Dodge said they designed a new truck. That's what it's all about. He goes against this truck, Andy Brass, in the awesome Wildfoot. This is a truck that's been writing a legend for itself, a legend in its own time, driven by none other than Andy Brass out of St. Louis.
Well, as you indicated, there is that brand new body style, the 94 Dodge pickup body style.
Yeah, they took all the engineers, put them in a room, said we're starting with a clean piece of paper and we're going to build a truck. They built a good one.
Who won that one? Who won that one?
Andy worked hard. Fred was right there. Let's wait and see. Brass goes a 5:43, Gary. You take the Dodge's time.
Brass by an eyelash, perhaps? Yes, 5:50 for Fred Schaefer. So Andy Brass advances in Wildfoot. Look at the rain.
For the very first run on a vehicle, I am impressed. That thing's only going to, that little thing we're talking about here, the red truck's only going to get better, quicker, faster, fly longer, higher.
A lot of experience in the cockpit. Fred Schaefer in barefoot, but the winner is Andy Brass. Here he is with Army.
Gary, Andy Brass will not come out of the truck, and he's got a good reason behind it. We're going to get him to tell us it has to do with his shoes. Andy's telling us what the deal is.
Well, the conditions here at the Pin to Point Series, BF Goodrich Series is wet. You know, we got the mud on the track, the mud out here in the pits, and the guys are trying to stay in their trucks, keep their feet dry. Otherwise, you end up with mud on your foot controls, and it's hard enough to keep the trucks going straight between the cars, let alone try to keep your feet on the foot or on the brake. You know, you don't need the mud to be sliding around.
Well, that's the problem with us, Armin. We're not keeping our feet very dry. We're coming back. Matchup will be Barefoot the Dodge against Snakebite the Ford. Rick Rattler against Fred Schaefer. And earlier, Army had a chance to talk to Rick about that shootout.
Fred Schaefer and that Dodge are like an old bad penny. They just keep coming back and coming back. You got to put him away.
Yeah, I do. You know, Army, it's real tough. It's wet out here. We got lane choice again. We're going back to the right lane. I think the truck's going to work there. All I got to do is work with the truck. Like I say, the Ford Snakebite's been tough, but I think we can put Fred Schaefer and that Dodge away.
Well, there is a look at the brand new 94 body style for that Dodge pickup truck. In your right lane, Fred Schaefer. The left lane, Snakebite, was the fast qualifier in much drier conditions yesterday.
You know, that Dodge truck has got everybody buzzing back in the pit area. People coming from all over to watch it to see how it runs. Right now, it's just a race truck, and he's going on a trailer. Yeah.
Rick Rattler, the Snakebite. Time 5:53.
Well, the numbers are there today. They're turning some good numbers.
Yeah, despite the inclement weather.
Exactly. Well, the new Dodge will have to wait for another day to take his first win. Right now, the kid rolls over into the final.
And I think you'll be seeing a whole lot more of Fred Schaefer in that Dodge as we look one more time.
No doubt about it. Schaefer, the horsepower's there. This might be a case we told you earlier. They're having to detune the engine. Too much horsepower slow you down in the middle.
There's the margin of victory, almost a truck length.
Plus, I want you to notice something else. Every win today has come out of the same lane, and you can't do it in the final. Somebody's going to have to go over into what we call the bad lane. That's where the Dodge was that time.
A look there at Andy Brass in Wildfoot. He pulls alongside Gene Patterson and Bigfoot. Now, the drivers are saying the far lane where Andy is softer in the takeoff area. The takeoff area where Gene Patterson is more compact right now, so the drivers in the right lane are getting a better shot at the light. And earlier, Army talked to Gene.
Gene, on a day like today, does horsepower help or hurt you?
That hurts us pretty bad here, Army. You know, we was back in the pits doing a little tuning on it. We put a new Iski camshaft in it last night. We seen the rain coming in. We're trying to tune the motor down here on this BF Goodrich Pin to Point Series race. It's tough out here. It's real slick out here. With the tire combination we're running, we think we're going to do okay. You know, we're just hanging in there till the next round.
All right, back to the race now. Once again, the far lane, Wildfoot, with Andy Brass. Bigfoot, the near lane, with Gene Patterson.
And the big difference, like you say, Patterson is starting on a harder surface. This lane actually was built, I believe, over some gravel, and it doesn't dig down as much as the far lane.
But the far lane is getting a much better bite at
yeah.
the starting light.
Doesn't count. First win of the day out of that lane.
Trouble. Yeah. You're right. First win of the day out of that lane. Gene Patterson at 5:76. Brass had some trouble the last half of the run.
It's the second vehicle we've seen today that didn't get off the first jump straight, and it cost them. Deppy had problems earlier in the Dodge. Let's see what's going to happen here.
Got to watch the far lane. Andy Brass gets a skew of those cars about right here. And he's in trouble, and of course the victory goes to Gene Patterson. So we go back trackside. Here's Gene with Army.
All right, Gene, here we go. You and Snakebite. Have you been here before? Can you handle it?
There's no Army, the Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot. We're working pretty hard out here. The guys are all running around here. We all got our race flicks on, radios on. We're trying to communicate. As you can see, the track's real sloppy out here. We're trying to keep the motor tuned down because it just ain't taking the horsepower this weekend here on this Pin to Point series. We're going to do whatever we can take, though, to put this Ford Power Wheels Bigfoot team in the finals. That's where we want to be all weekend, and we're going to be in the winner's circle no matter what it takes.
Well, we apologize for the poor audio, but Gene talking through the helmet and the poor inclement conditions. And there's a look at a thrash under the Snakebite truck. Let's see if we can't find out what's going on by going back to the pit area and Army Armstrong.
What you're looking at right now is a crew frantically trying to get a drive shaft. The front drive shaft went away on the Snakebite. The Bigfoot crew, believe it or not, got him in the final. They said, no, we're not going to roll over. We'll go help them. We're going to beat them. We'll beat them on the track. So what they've got is 9 minutes to get the vehicle squared away, plus 3 minutes from the time you're called. You have 3 minutes from the time you're called to make the call. So really, what this crew is confronted with is 12 minutes. The Bigfoot crew came over and said, look, you stay in the truck. We'll put it back together for you. If we're going to beat you, we're not going to beat you by breakage. We're going to beat you on a racetrack, and we got about 12 minutes to find out what it's all about.
Call that great sportsmanship, but what that means is that Fred Schaefer could be the man to go to the finals if Snakebite is not ready to go. So there is a look at the Quagmire finals.
That's just an example of what a quality and class act the Bigfoot people are. They don't want to beat this guy by him sitting on a trailer. They want to beat him on a racetrack. You know, I respect that because they know full well he actually built that truck just to beat them.
Yeah, and earlier Army spoke to Snakebite's opponent, Gene Patterson.
Well, Gene Patterson just put his boss away, but the big question of the day is, can you get this kid out of Colorado? He wants you big time, and you know it.
Yeah, Army, we've been watching the Snake all day long. Boy, he's been laying down some killer passes out here. You know, the track, as you can see, it's just a real big slop out here. You know, we're doing everything we can. We keep detuning the motor. We keep tuning it down and tuning it down. The Ford's just making so much horsepower out here this weekend. We're at our wit's end, you know. We can't make a gear change or nothing. We're at what our end's limit. So we're just going to push him as hard as we can off the line. We can see what we can do and end up in the winner's circle.
So it's Bigfoot, Gene Patterson, the near lane, Snakebite, Rick Rattler in the far lane. Now keep in mind, Army, that Rattler took the Snakebite truck to the finals 3 times in Canfield, Ohio, but could not come away with the win.
But today, by virtue of choose the good lane, the soft lane, I think that will definitely be to his advantage.
Well, and also, you heard Gene Patterson say there's nothing else they can do to Bigfoot. They have detuned this Ford as much as they can. They cannot change gears. They have to go with what they have.
Watch the finish line. That's what it's all about. Snakebite.
It is Snakebite. Rick Rattler finally takes the victory here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Rattler in the Ford Snakebite over the Ford Bigfoot and Gene Patterson.
Boy, that was a good run. And, you know, again, I got to give credit to the crew right there, the Bigfoot guys. They lost the battle, but they may win the war before the season's over.
Well, they certainly won an award for sportsmanship by going over and helping the Snakebite crew get that Ford ready for the finals.
You know, a lot of people don't know that they're the ones that actually found that drive shaft messed up. He didn't know. He was not aware that he had a problem.
Yeah, and they helped to fix it, and then Snakebite comes back to do just that, find him. Here's Rick.
On what has to be, Gary, the worst day of monster truck racing I've ever been involved in my life, I'm standing with the winner. Hey, it's got to be just as sweet today, whether it's raining or sunshine and blue skies. Congratulations. You definitely earned it.
Thanks, Army. Yeah, it's a little wet, but when you pull a win out like that, the Ford Snakebite running as well as it was, it's kind of hard to face the wet. You know, it still feels just as good. We went into the finals there against Bigfoot. Round before that, lost the drive shaft, and I got to really thank my crew, but also thank the Bigfoot crew because they were over and helped put that drive shaft back in the little time that we had to get back to the racetrack.
Well, congratulations on a good win. Now, let's all go get dried out.
Okay, thanks, Army.
Well, we salute the Bigfoot team for their sportsmanship. We congratulate Snakebite and Rick Rattler. My colleague, Army Armstrong.
Well, Gary, Andy Brass loves Indianapolis, Indiana, because every time he comes here, he seems to finish in the money. Is it like an old pair of shoes, Andy? It just works for you here?
Yeah, it is. You know, the track here at Indy's always been a good one for us. The BF Goodrich Pin to Point Series has been putting some nice tracks together here all year, and it's just something we've been getting dialed into, and hopefully the track turns out the same this year, and we can get dialed in and make good passes here today.
Okay, now you talk about all year. We're winding this thing down. The trucks are getting a lot of abuse, but you guys are getting a lot of abuse too. As a matter of fact, I saw you back earlier warming up doing, you know, stretches like a sprinter would do. Why?
Well, it's like you say, you know, the trucks take their toll through the year, these tracks do on the trucks, and they also take it on us, you know. We got to make the truck handle the track, and also anymore, the drivers got to get suited into the trucks. You know, the trucks are rough on us, they're playing a toll on our bodies, and if you don't go to the clubs anymore and start working out and do your stretching, then you're going to be hurting.
Well, Gary, it kind of tells you something a lot of people don't realize. You don't only race a monster truck here, you race at your local gym. Back to you.
It has been all right, action now from round one competition. That is Rick Rattler in Snakebite and Guy Wood in the Hulk, and it's all Snakebite.
Already, the first round, we're starting to notice the difference in the tracks. The guys that were fast and thought they may want to go, the times are not that bad considering what they're having to race in.
Also in round one, Pam Botters, a newcomer, and that monster Ford Aerostar would push the big blue Ford driven by Gene Patterson. But
Patterson
Bigfoot
looked good in that round, but I tell you, the young lady impressed me. He nets a 580. She laid down a decent number, and we want to show you our crush cam.
Yeah, brand new angle. And Army, here's what you're talking about. There's a look at that hole right there. That is Andy Brass in Wildfoot as he is trying to stage and find his position there at the starting ramp. Andy Brass out of St. Louis, Missouri, in a truck from the Bob and Marilyn Chandler Bigfoot operation. Now, this was earlier in round one competition as we take a look at the win over Wayne Smozanic. And he posted a 5.51. That was the second fastest pass in round one. So
Okay,
now we see Barefoot line up against Wildfoot.
Barefoot has won out of that lane. If there's a bad lane, I'm saying it's that one because it's a soft lane. That's where you're digging 24 inches down. The lane closest to us gets a little bit better bite. Let's see what's going to happen. We got a race. Boy, do we have a race.
Oh, yeah. Barefoot. Woo. Barefoot. And look at him sliding to a stop. Look at that quagmire, a 5:26. So he is faster that run than he was in round one to a 5:40.
He beat up on the quick guy.
So Fred Schaefer out of neighboring Illinois will take his Dodge on to the next round.
Take the 94 Dodge on to the next round. Man, the guys at Chrysler got to be grinning from ear to ear for that Dodge to come out. And look at that.
He gets a bad hop right there at the start, but still makes it work. So let's go down to the pit area and talk to Fred.
Fred, you guys right?
Back to you, Gary.
Well, Army, of course, Motorsports has always offered a trade-in technology from one type of motorsport to another as we take a head-on look at Snakebite, and there is Rick Rattler.
Gary, I was just watching the kid out of Cobra Creek, Colorado. As he rolled into the lanes, you could actually see the truck dipping down as Rick is doing a good job with the truck, but you know, this track today gives a new meaning to the word hole shot, doesn't it? You're starting it at
Yes, it does. Wow. Don Van Loo in the near lane. The far lane, Rick Rattler.
Van Loo in a Dodge, Rattler in a Ford. Pull the trigger. Who won it?
Well, obviously we couldn't tell from the crush cam. We'll have to take another look. Rick Rattler at 5:58 and a 5:91 for Don Van Loo. So Rick Rattler takes that victory as we look one more time.
Well, I like that camera they got set down at the track.
Yeah. I think that's a non-manned camera.
I'll guarantee you, I'm not going out to check it out. Yeah.
And there is the margin of victory for Rick Rattler. And let's go trackside now with both these guys.
Hey, guys, both of you, a real good job. The starting line seems to be the trick up there. Horsepower, is it that important today, Donnie?
No, horsepower is not a big concern today. I think it's just good tires, big lugs that get you down the track a lot better than the horsepower will.
Okay, thanks a lot. Hey, Rick, you're moving on. He's going back into the box on the trailer. You get to stay alive today. How do you feel about it?
Pretty good, Army. You know, we switched over to the left lane just to see what it would be like in the last round. And we made it over there, but really had to drive the truck down the track. This lane over here, we ran it quite a bit, you know, and we're starting to feel real comfortable with it. It's a matter of choice. You know, the big holes out here in the right lane, but we seem to be getting better traction over here.
And as the competition continues, we look at the Monster Patrol with Paul Schaefer. He will be in the near lane. The far lane will find Gene Patterson in Bigfoot, and there is Gene.
You know, it surprises me that Patterson wants to go over to the lane that's real soft and start in that big old hole, but I don't think you really got a good and a bad lane right now.
Hoosier boy out of Portage, Indiana, up in northern Indiana. Paul Schaefer, the Monster Patrol. There's Gene Patterson the Bigfoot organization out of St. Louis.
Schaefer operates a auto salvage operation real big in that industry. Patterson, professional monster truck driver, and a brand new father, I might say.
Well, he chose that right lane where it's a little softer. Let's see if it works for him. And yes, indeed, as Schaefer high-sides that truck, and Gene Patterson takes the victory. We've heard a lot of talk about detuning these engines this weekend. Let's go back trackside, and Army has some comments on that.
Gary, something really amazing is going on in the pit area. Every time these trucks come back in, the crews are coming over to prep them, but what they're doing, they're detuning them. Normally, these guys are coming to pits trying to make more horsepower and what have you. Not the case here. They're coming back in, topping it off with fuel, trying to knock horsepower away from the vehicle because of the worst possible weather we could be in. And but then again, you know, trucks are supposed to get dirty, so maybe that's an omen for the Dodge people that, yeah, it is a good, tough truck.
The Dodge Barefoot, the far lane, the Ford Wildfoot, the near lane. Fred Schaefer, the veteran drag racer, against Andy Brass, the veteran monster truck campaigner.
More than that, it's Ford against Dodge, Mopar against
Fresh Cam.
Boom! Who got it? I couldn't tell again.
Now, once again, from that angle, we're going to have to wait, but there's a look at Andy Brass's 5.25 in this type of condition. An excellent drive, and a 5.28 for Fred Schaefer. Oh, ever so close, but Andy Brass will advance.
Man, oh man, that was a good race.
All right, now here is the replay, and you'll see the margin of victory. 3/100ths of a second for Andy Brass. Right there it is. That's the difference.
Andy, in racing, you take them any way you can get them. You come back into this thing through the quick loser bracket, but you're going to the final. Do you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, we do. You know, we just tried something different there on the line. We knew we was going to have to get off the line fast. You know, we knew Fred come on and got us there last round. The track here on the BF Goodrich Point Series is a little slippery today, so that's it. You know, you're going to have to come off the line. We're getting into some good dirt. Firestone's are doing us a good job, you know. I thought we pulled him off the line. We was able to keep it straight down there, and that was the main thing with us today.
There's Gene Patterson up against Rick Rattler. Rick has been in both the right and the left lanes today, so earlier Army asked him why he's been moving around so much.
Well, we moved over there in the left lane, Army, just to see what it looked like over there. You know, it's pretty muddy out there this weekend, and we're having a hard time picking lanes. I ran the right lane for qualifying and felt that it pulled me a little bit in the center of the cars, moved to the left lane and found out it was really a driving course over there. So we turned around and came back to the right lane. The Ford Snakebite's really doing well this weekend. It's just having a bit of problems, you know, picking lanes because of the mud and the traction with the tires and stuff.
Looking straight on, that's Patterson on your right. There's a look at Bigfoot, Gene Patterson. There's a look at Snakebite and Rick Rattler. And the winner here will face off against Wildfoot and Andy Brass for the championship here in Indianapolis.
Boy, it's amazing the drama right now. Both drivers are in the lane. Light goes green. They're going the other end. Who's going to be the first down there, Gary?
It is, oh, who is it? I can't tell. It looked like Snakebite was trying to carry the front end, maybe not by design.
Okay, a 5.58 for Patterson.
And a 5.61 for Rick Rattler. So Gene Patterson will take his Ford Bigfoot to the final against his old nemesis, his old partner, his old teammate, his old buddy, Andy Brass.
Yeah, but all that'll go on a shelf during the next round. This kid out of Colorado, he keeps impressing me. You know, he didn't lay still for anything. He kept working that truck all day long to make it work.
But ever so close.
Exactly, but Patterson here is going to be lining up against Andy Brass in the final.
So let's talk to Gene Patterson in the pit area.
When did you know you had that race won?
Well, you know, we pulled down through the middle of the track there, Army, you know, and I shifted the, you know, TCI torque converter there. We got her geared down there a little bit, you know, and we felt like we pulled him in between the cars. And I looked over, I didn't see him coming out of the right side of my eye, and I've been watching the snake truck run good all day long here, you know, on this BF Goodrich Independent Series. We just felt like we gave him out of the hole, which we thought we did, you know, and we had to back pedal out a little bit, and we just, you know, we reeled her in down there on the end. I looked over and didn't see him, so we were real happy for that.
You almost need a glossary for all the motorsports terms that we have here in monster truck racing. Here's another look at that run from the crush cam with Bigfoot coming right at you and right over you. So it's Bigfoot and Wildfoot in the championship here in Indianapolis. We're going to come back and see which guy can put the best foot forward. Stay with us. Choice by virtue of his better time in the semifinals. And he'll pull alongside Gene Patterson in the Snakebite truck. And prior to these finals, we asked Gene Patterson about the track conditions.
The track, believe it or not, the starting line is getting a little bit better, but in between the cars it's still real slippery, so it's all in the finesse of the right foot there going down through the track. You know, you got to kind of backpedal a little bit, but hopefully we can backpedal it right into the winner's circle this weekend.
As we take a look at the front of both trucks, they are staged. They've done their dry hops. They are waiting on the Christmas tree to go green.
You know, after the interview, he walked away and gave us a sign of hang loose. Well, believe me, that's what you better do to be in the winner's circle here. The coolest head's going to prevail, not the most horsepower. Whoa, Brass is in trouble. Patterson goes the other end. Brass is okay.
Brass is almost on his side. Gene Patterson takes the win. Uncharacteristic of Andy Brass to get in such trouble.
Yeah, but Patterson just told us that no man's land was just gooey out there. Picture's worth 1,000 words once again.
I liked his term finesse. You don't equate finesse with monster truck racing, but it was finesse that got Gene Patterson down the run. And look at this. Very uncharacteristic to see Andy Brass in that configuration.
This sport to me has always been like rhinoceros on roller skates. They may be big, but you do have to finesse them.
As we look from the crash cam, and you can see Andy get in big trouble right there. Oh, what a great shot. I like that. Well, let's go down to the pit area now and talk to Andy Brass.
Andy, it almost seemed like you were making a T-shirt run out there.
Yeah, it was. You know, you can see the track was slick here today at the Pin to BF Goodrich Points race. It's been slick all day. You know, we've had the rain and everything, and the trucks have been running pretty good. You know, we've been trying to dial the shocks into the track a little bit. You can see from what we've seen today, the Trailmaster shocks we run on our trucks, and Snakebite's been running on his. You know, that ought to show something because the 3 trucks was all in the finals, so we got something there. I think we had a little edge on with the shocks. But also, you know, running the Firestone tires, we was getting a good traction off the line. Just the cars got a little slick, down ramp was a little slick. We hooked up between the cars and just turned the truck sideways.
Well, Andy would slide, but his teammate Gene Patterson would glide the victory. Here's one more look as Andy Brass gets in trouble, and Gene Patterson soars to victory lane. That's where he is now with Army Armstrong.
Started out as a muddy day in Indianapolis, and only one person stayed alive. Gene Patterson, the driver of Bigfoot. Gene, man, this was a unique day, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Army. The track was real slick out there today, you know, on this BF Goodrich Penaliner Series. We felt like we had the right combination going out there. We geared the truck down. We detuned the motor, like I said earlier, you know. We tried to take a little bit away from the fuel. Hey, you know, we did what we could do against the Ford Bigfoot team, and, you know, we're just real happy to be here. The Ford Bigfoot Power Wheels team, we come out on top. We let a little gas out of Trailmaster shocks for that final round because we figured we could get a little bit more traction down on the ground. Seems like it helped out a lot for us, you know, and I'd just like to thank everybody at BDS and everybody back at shop, Jazz, Weisco Pistons, Simpson, Autometer. Without you guys, we wouldn't be where we're at.
Well, without a trophy, girl, you wouldn't be the real winner. We're going to introduce it to you right now. Congratulations.
All right, thanks a lot, Army.
And a good race driver always gets all the sponsors mentioned. Our congratulations to Gene Patterson. So for Army Armstrong,
day's over.
Let's take a look at some highlights now from round 1 competition.
When round 1 came about, Andy Brass was a quick qualifier, but he rolled in against one of the new pups we were talking about, a kid named Brian Welch, driving a Chevrolet in a far lane. And before the afternoon was over, Brian Welch would have something to brag about as he will go into the next round. Andy Brass was disqualified.
Andy was disqualified for going out of bounds. The fast qualifier's a spectator, and he talked to Army.
Well, Andy, rules is rules. You got to live and die by them.
Yeah, that's right. You know, we was looking at the track when we first went out there today because we had a controversy over the first car. The one in the left lane seemed a lot shorter, you know, and we was really concerned about, you know, if a guy's 3 feet off on a car, you know, it can make a big difference. So we went out there early, we measured the track off, and we got everything equal on it, you know, and I guess we just missed her by an inch, and that's all it takes.
Well, that would not be the only upset for the Bob Chandler Racing team. Gene Patterson in the far lane. He's in Bigfoot. He's taking on the newcomer Pam Botters.
She's driving a new truck called the Boogie Van, and believe me, she's got a future in this sport.
Oh, ever so close. There's the time of the run, but ever so close on the margin of victory. But hey, it doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile. Pam takes the victory.
Horsepower Dodge engine, and then Rattler comes up with the research and development situation for the Ford camp with the flashing lights going. And like I say, neither one of them like the other guy. That's putting it mildly.
Well, Well, in round one, the snake bite out of Culver Creek, Colorado, Rick Rattler had a bye run. Now here's the bye run earlier today.
You know, if you'll notice, he took the bye run out of the lane that he's not running in now. So he does not have a feel for the lane we're going to be watching him race out of right now, Gary. That could cost him.
So once again, as we continue in the quarterfinals, it's the Ford Snakebite against the Dodge Barefoot. Remember, the fast loser will return for the semifinals.
We got a race. We got a race. Check it out.
Like Fred Schaefer by what? A couple of feet? So Fred Schaefer's Dodge takes the victory, but let's check the time now for Snakebite. Rick Rattler in losing. Well, there's Fred Schaefer's time of 5:53.
We know he's going into the next round, but there's the magic
There it is,
number.
yeah, Rick Rattler right now, your fast loser. So Rick would advance to the semifinals with the Dodge Express, with the Boogie Van, and with Barefoot. If we take a look again.
Both trucks roll the starting line now. No man's land. They plant the horsepower. Schaefer up on the horsepower, muscles it out of that left lane.
Oh, man, he is really finding the horsepower and is able to get that horsepower to the ground. That's the key in monster truck racing. Yeah, you have to stick it, and you have to have that suspension working as well. So Fred Schaefer takes the victory. And right now, Army, I think you're down there with Fred.
Well, right now, the crew to the ground on the starting line. Ken Deppy, the hired gun, represents Dodge. Kid out of Culver Creek, Colorado, representing the Ford camp with Snakebite. Good camera angle. Gary, this is going to be a rocket ride right here.
Well, keep in mind that Snakebite was the fast loser from the last round. So let's see what he can do now with this 12-truck format. The fast loser comes back from the quarterfinals. Good shot down the track. We are down to the final four. Right-hand side is Snakebite. Left-hand side, Dodge Express.
Look like Snakebite moved first. Dodge trying to muscle in the middle.
Snakebite.
Whoa.
Ricky Rattler, the fast loser from the quarterfinals, comes back at 5:31. He keeps getting faster. The Dodge Express of Ken Deppy will go back to the trailer. And the win goes to Snakebite, Rick Rattler.
Boy, that truck moved quick in that far lane.
He got off to a very good start, a good hole shot, and there is the margin of victory. Oh my, a wheel at most.
Yeah, at most.
One more look coming right at you. Left-hand lane is Snakebite.
No man's land is where the Dodge lost it.
And Army is down to talk to our winner.
Ricky, tell me about that last race. It looked awfully close.
Yeah, it was awfully close, Army. You know, the Ford Snakebite's running well here today. We got took out first round there by Fred Schaefer, you know, and it's been a tough track to decide how to drive on it, and that's what's really making it tough out here. It's sand. It's just really different than what we're used to racing on.
The drivers, this is the final shootout. Barefoot, the Dodge, Fred Schaefer, and he goes up against Rick Rattler in Snakebite earlier. Army talked to both.
Gary, we've been here before. These guys have gone tooth and nail all day long. A tough, tough day. This guy got a piece of you earlier. Can you handle him?
It's going to be tough, Army, but I think the Ford Snakebite can really do a good job. It's been working. You know, like I said earlier, it's just deciding on how to drive it. I think we figured it out that last round. I think we can push this truck as hard as it'll go.
Where will the race be won or lost? Start, middle, or end?
I think I can out horsepower in between the cars, but getting off the line with him, I think, is going to be the problem. Is trying to stay with him off the gate.
Well, now, once again, remember, these two matched up in round two competition in the quarterfinals, and it was Barefoot taking that victory, and Snakebite was the fast loser of the quarterfinals.
Yeah, but
he came back.
You don't race by looking behind you. You race by looking in front of you. From right now forward is what counts. What happened in the past doesn't mean a thing, but I tell you what, both of these guys are going to leave quick. Snakebite knows he's got to get him on the starting line. Fred told you that. He said he can muscle him in the middle. The kid in the far lane has got to drill the big Dodge on the starting line. He did it. He did it, Gary.
Good hole shot for Rick Rattler, and Snakebite. Look at the margin of victory for Snakebite. The Ford takes the win over the Dodge of Fred Schaefer.
And the crowd goes crazy here in Naples, Florida.
A 5:93, but remember, we saw earlier a 5:36. Rick went 5:31 in that lane.
He said he had it figured out. Amen to that. He definitely had it figured out.
So once again, After being beaten by Fred Schaefer in the quarterfinals as a fast loser, he comes back and he's going to take the victory. He's going to take all of it.
Exactly. But the starting line, thousandths of a second. See, he was back down on the ground in no man's land while Fred was still in the air. We're not taking anything away from Fred, but that Ford fought to the top to take the win here.
But all season long, this Dodge Barefoot will be a truck to reckon with. I mean, they have come back. They have arrived.
They're definitely serious, and they're going after these guys.
Let's go down out of Victory Lane and talk to Rick Rattler.
Gary, I tell you what, he's climbing out of the truck now. The crowd's going crazy. This has got to be a great day for you. That was a big win.
The Ford snake bite's really running well, Army. You know, like I said, we had a hard time adjusting to this. We got the truck dialed in thanks to Kenny and Herbie and Dale. You know, the crew, they really worked with me on this to decide how we were going to drive this track, and it worked well.
I'll go buy a pickup truck tomorrow. What brand should I buy?
You better buy a Ford.
Another good truck commercial, this time for Ford.
One commercial for Dodge, one for Ford.
Out later. Back to you, Gary.
Army, a look now at some highlights from round one. The fast qualifier, Gene Patterson, the far lane in Bigfoot against Pam Botters in Bookie Van. Now, the last time these two met, Pam upset Gene, but Gene gets revenge this time and takes the victory with a 5:40 clocking.
Yeah, Gene knew that she was going to be a tough cookie on that start line. We're going to go to the crush cam to show you exactly what Foot looks like.
Whoa, that gave me a headache. And now it's the Wildfoot truck, the far lane with Andy Brass, and no problem, the Ford of John Moore.
John Moore trying to use some of the off-road technology. He's just not able to tweak that truck to make it work for him, like Andy Brass, who did that at 5:20.
Good time for Brass at 5:20. And now we look at Rick Rattler, the right side, Mark Hall in the left lane.
Ford on the right, Chevy on the left. Let the race speak for itself. Hear them winging that throttle when they're flying through the air, that wah, 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 wah. They're really working that throttle.
There's a look at Rick Rattler's 5:43 in the...
One of the things we're keeping an eye on is the Ford camp comes out with Andy Brass, proven driver, proven combination, the computer team. He's out of St. Louis, Missouri, representing, you know, the Wildfoot truck. But he's going up against Brian Welch. Who's this kid? The moving violation truck. He's a privateer that represents the Chevy camp. So you got the Ford Chevrolet battle, but you also got another battle. Corporate America against the privateer. That's just the way the card's laid on this.
They can be tough in all kinds of motorsports to go up against factory-back teams. And Wildfoot, the Ford of Andy Brass, takes the victory. Once again, the fast loser will advance, so we'll have to check the times of the losers.
5:36 for Brass. Now, we know that's going to pull him in, but what we can do is watch Welch. Now, let's see if that 5:53 is going to hold up. Interesting part of the track right here. The shutdown area presents some problems all its own.
Well, it's a quagmire down there, and these guys are sliding to a stop under braking. There's the margin of victory for Wildfoot, but then it becomes exciting when they start sliding in the shutdown area.
Yeah, the sand on the starting line, you can see the truck's really rooting the sand up.
Andy Brass, only the third fast qualifier this afternoon, and Army, you're down there with Andy right now. Let's go trackside to Andy Brass.
Andy, every time you go up against one of these new young guns, you know you got to have it on kill, don't you?
That's right. You know, the Ford Wildfoot's been running good for us today. We was over there watching Brian's times. He turned out some good times. He put some new parts on his truck. He went with the Linko in the truck, and it's been helping out a whole lot, you know. We just been holding together with the C6s. They've been doing us a good job. The John Cosby built Ford Hemi we're running now is putting out some horsepower. We're able to hook it to the ground thanks to the Firestones. So the truck's been working good for us, and it's doing good today.
And a good interview gets all the sponsors mentioned.
I was going to say, he must practice in front of a mirror to do that.
Fred Schaefer in Barefoot, the Dodge, and he will go up against Bigfoot, the Ford of Gene Patterson. Gene is the fast qualifier here this afternoon. Fifth fast qualifier, Fred Schaefer. After round one, Army asked Fred about racing at this. In any kind of motorsport, you tweak the chassis, you make adjustments to the engine to adapt to the racing facility.
Yeah, you adjusted the track. The track doesn't adjust to you. Horsepower in the mid-range, pulled it out for the Dodge. Now the shutdown fun.
Yeah, this is, once again, this is the mile of mud. This is where they run those swamp buggies here under a couple of feet of water.
Yeah, they actually drained 4 feet of water out of here. And they say there's an alligator out here somewhere. That's the reason I'm standing up on the board.
Well, this is Florida. There are plenty of alligators down here.
But this facility is amazing. The only one I know of in the country. They provide these people of South Florida with all types of motorsporting events. This week, monster trucks. They got the swamp buggy races. We do mud racing in here. So
Fun place to be.
Yeah, don't forget they run stock cars here as well, so a true multi-purpose facility. Well, now, Army, you have some thoughts on this next matchup featuring the snake bite with Rick Rattler and Dodge Express with Ken Deppy.
Gary, I don't care what anybody says. Corporate America is involved in this sport. Right now, we've got a situation where Dodge just beat a Ford. Barefoot just put Bigfoot out. On the starting line, we've got another scenario where Dodge Express is going after the snake bite truck. Another Dodge Ford scenario. You win on Sunday, you sell on Monday. That's the bottom line. Let's see who's going into this next round.
All right, will it be Dodge? Will it be Ford? And there is a look at Ken Deppy out of Jefferson City, Missouri in the Dodge Express. And he'll pull alongside Rick Rattler, Cobra Creek, Colorado, and snakebite.
You'll notice that Deppy comes into this thing, and he'll do the dry hop to that Dodge, the vehicle closest to us. They find out that makes that truck leave the line a little bit harder. The dry hop, in other words, false starting before the race where they can get everything ready to go. Meanwhile, the Colorado Ford, he just went to the line and waited. What a race.
Oh, who was it?
Looked like
who was it?
Looked like a P-51 Mustang nosing over at that finish line. I believe the Dodge with a 5.33 will make it an all-Dodge final. Let's wait and see.
5.33 for Deppy as we wait for the snake bite. 5.36 indeed. Deppy will advance. So it looks like Bigfoot is the fast loser. He will come back to comprise our 4-truck field for the semis with Barefoot, Bigfoot, Wildfoot, and the Dodge Express. And there is the margin of victory, just that close for Ken Deppy. And talk about the battle in corporate America in the semifinals.
Entertaining is one way to look at it, but awards another way. The dry hop procedure starts. You know, what can you say? Ford wants to sell trucks. Dodge wants to sell trucks. Ford's in the sport for the exposure to sell. Dodge, they're here for the same reason. This is about a corporate battle as you're going to get. You can talk NASCAR and all this stuff, but I tell you what, Ford and Dodge realize they get some exposure from these monster trucks, and they're capitalizing on it.
We are focusing on the drivers, but it's a crew team effort today.
Sure.
And dialing these trucks into work, a very unique racing facility here.
You're exactly right. The facility, but keep in mind, the facility is the same. You adjust to the track. The track does not adjust to you. This one, it's an old cliche. It's going to be worth the price of admission. The next 2 races.
Side by side over the last set of cars. Who was it?
I don't know, but watch them shut down.
Well, that was almost a photo finish. Gene Patterson, a 5.23 for Patterson. We'll go by the time now. A 5.23, 5.16. So Fred Schaefer in the Barefoot Dodge will advance. This is really a track to test your self-discipline. They cannot use all their horsepower. They cannot get it down.
No, it's a finesse track. It's kind of like a bull moose with ballet in mind.
And the curtain just fell on Bigfoot. A bull moose and ballet slippers.
Those folks out there understand exactly what I'm talking about, right, folks? Meanwhile, the Dodge is set for the final.
Dodge takes the victory over the Ford as we take a look at the undercarriage of Bigfoot. And we go down now to victory lane to visit with our winner, Fred Schaefer.
Dodge is going to be in the final. We've been talking to you all day long about the corporate involvement, how Dodge doesn't want Ford to beat them, Ford doesn't want Dodge to beat them. Well, Dodge has half the field covered. Now, Andy Brass has all the pressure of the world on his shoulder because if we're going to get a Ford in the final, he's the only guy that can carry that blue and white flag of the blue oval bunch to the final. I don't think it bothers him a bit, though. This kid is cool. Half track looks good. Brass is out
It is.
No, all Dodge final.
Who is it? Another photo finish. I couldn't tell from my vantage point, Army. 5.20 for Andy Brass.
I think we got an all-Dodge final.
5.20 for Ken Deppy. It's a dead heat. We'll have to run it again. Oh, how many times have we seen this?
Never.
Never.
Look at this. Both trucks settle down. Watch the nose on the trucks as they go over the finish line. Dodge is nose down. Ford is nose up.
But it's still a dead heat. A pair of 5.20s. We look again. And that means we'll have to run them again.
Boy, this is awesome. I guess that's what the ruling is in the sport. Meanwhile, Andy Brass getting a real good look at the crowd.
Well, they'll have to go back, check out those vehicles for any damage before they come back to the starting line, dry hop again, stage them, and race again. Now, let's go down trackside. Army, you have a report on some damage to the Dodge Express.
Gary, this is a situation down in the pit area. This is the shock that came off the Dodge Express on that previous run. A $1,500 Custer shock. The hydraulics on it messed up. It is no good. Junk. Throw it away. They had to go back to the pit area and get their backup shock. That's this one right here. The crew says they can change the shocks, but the problem is the time element. It takes about 15 minutes to change one of these Custer off-road shocks. They don't have 15 minutes. The word I'm getting is they're down to about 3 or 4 minutes before they get the call. Back to you, Gary.
So as the work continues on the Dodge Express, Andy Brass waits patiently in Wildfoot to see if he'll have a chance for a rematch of that dead heat with the Dodge Express. We'll step aside while this gets sorted out.
Vic, when he broke, he could not make the call. So what that does, it rolls Andy into the final. Andy Brass with Ford, Fred Schaefer for Dodge. This is final time. This is what this sport is all about. Gary?
Bigfoot, barefoot. There's a look at Fred Schaefer, and there's a look at Andy Brass.
I don't know what to tell you about this one. Andy Brass, look for a rocket ride off the start line. Both these guys are going to go down through here like they're sitting on the nose cone of a heat-seeking missile. I guarantee you, you're going to see...
Well, you're going to see two pros of the sport right here. You're going to see a clinic and how it's done on a very tacky track.
And we keep bouncing back to this corporate involvement. Well, it doesn't get any more pressure on either driver now. Andy Brass doesn't have all the pressure. He's there. Now the pressure levels out. We got a level playing field, but we got a real sandy racetrack, and we're looking for one green light to tell us who's going to win it.
Wheel stand down no man's land for Andy Brass, and it looks like Fred Schaefer has it.
I believe he did. I think the Dodge took to win. A 5.33 for Schaefer could be the magic number.
Now remember, Brass was quicker the last time at 5.20. He turns a 5.36, so it is Fred Schaefer in barefoot. The fans seem to appreciate the outcome of this event this afternoon. One more look. Look again at the margin of victory.
Exactly, but watch the attitude of the trucks at the finish line. The Dodge nose down, the Ford nose up. That's the way they set these trucks up. The Dodges are set up to dive at the finish line. You watch this. Boom.
Well, let's go down to victory lane and talk to Fred Schaefer. Army Gene Patterson in Bigfoot was the fast qualifier. Now remember, the times will be quicker here indoors on a shorter racetrack. And his time was 3.83, which would give him a 3-inch of shutdown area with that 3.90 time. Andy Brass in Wildfoot taking on Don Van Leeuwen and Magnum Force, and Andy Brass would net the best time of round one.
Brass showing us that starting line would hold the horsepower as he literally did a wheelie up to the first jump, Gary.
Also in round one, there is Mrs. Moore. Also in round one, Rick Rattler in Snakebite would best Brian Welsh in Moving Violation.
And once again, the starting line showing it will hold the horsepower.
Rick's time of 3.85. So some highlights from round one. We're going to come back to the Hoosier Dome in downtown Indianapolis for quarterfinal action. Stay with us.
Staying alive, and that's the name of the game here. You take it one round at a time. Speaking of one round, who goes in this one?
Well, the Bigfoot truck, the Ford of Gene Patterson, was the fast qualifier. As we look at Fred Schaefer in the Dodge Barefoot. Now, Bigfoot had a bye in the first round, so he's been watching the action. He knows what the other guys have done in round one, but now he pulls alongside this guy right here from Illinois. Nearest to the camera, Bigfoot, the far lane, Barefoot, Dodge against Ford.
And neither one of them will blink. This is what this sport is all coming down to. Patterson representing the big blue oval bunch, the Ford camp, driving a Bigfoot truck going against Schaefer, one of the Dodge boys, trying to pull off that Mopar magic on the far side.
And remember, in this format, the fast loser of this round will come back. So no matter what happens, oh, look at that wheel stand by Fred Schaefer. Hang on. High sides the Ford, but Gene Patterson brings it back down by powering out of it. Fred Schaefer a 3.73, but Bigfoot wins that one. Gene Patterson advances with a 370. That means that Barefoot could come back as the fast loser.
370 and doing a two-wheelie for us.
Indoors, not a whole lot of shutdown area, and watch this again. Watch the wheel stand first by Schaefer.
Also Patterson. Now, Patterson did a wheel stand, came off a little bit crooked. When this truck lands, it'll land a little bit cockeyed, and that's what causes it to get up on two wheels. Both drivers literally doing wheelies to get off the starting line.
So Gene Patterson takes that victory, and right now he is standing down along trackside with Army Armstrong.
All right, let me ask you this. You proved one thing. You can't put the brakes on in the air and stop. You got to get the truck back down on the ground. Good heads-up driving out there, Gene.
Yeah, you know, it's a short track here. Like I said, you know, we're happy the way the truck's performing this weekend so far. You know, we're really looking good. It was a close race. We knew when we pull out there against one of them red trucks, you know, red and blue don't mix, and Bigfoot and Barefoot don't mix neither.
You know, Gary, talk about red and blue not mixing. They make purple. That's the color of a black eye. Back to you.
Well, we take a look now at Wildfoot with Andy Brass, and there is the Dodge Express with Ken Deppy. So once again, we have seen more and more of these Dodge Ford shootouts.
I think we're going to see more as the sport goes along. The big question that Army Armstrong has is, where are the Chevrolet guys in this sport?
Well, Chevrolet may have to go back and regroup, because right now we're seeing more of the Ford and more of the Dodge.
That's all we're seeing, it seems like. Andy Brass, past world champion with the Wildfoot truck, went up against the young gun, the hired gun out of Jeff City, Missouri. Dodge, Ford, what can we say? Let's kick back and watch. Dodge won the last one.
This one will be Ford. Was not that close. Andy Brass, Wildfoot, the latest computerized creation of Bob and Marilyn Chandler with a 3.63 pass. Once again, some slower, some faster times here because it's a shorter track.
Right,
exactly. We would see with the slower times outside. An appreciative crowd, always one of the premier events on the Monster Truck Series as we come indoors here in the Hoosier Dome.
Well, Gary, it's Indianapolis. These people really appreciate good motorsports, and that's exactly what they're looking at right now. They're used to it.
Well, there's a look at Andy Brass as he is climbing out of the cockpit. Let's go talk to him.
Andy, it looks like y'all are getting a real weird twist out of there.
Well, we've been watching the right lane or the left lane over there a little bit, you know, and it's been seeming to throw everybody to the right, you know, so I just kind of end up staged a little bit, you know. The Ford's been doing us a good job. We've been putting horsepower to the ground today. We're getting good traction off the line, you know, with the Firestone tires. The suspension doing us a good job, but still, you know, it's tweaking us to the right. We're just going to have to compensate for it.
Next pairing, John Moore, the cheerleader in the No Problem Ford, and he'll go up against Rick Rattler in snakebite. Great shot of the Ford No Problem.
Now, John Moore and this vehicle have tried to bring over a lot of the technology from the sport of off-road racing. He's out of Lafayette, Tennessee. He and his lovely wife, Heidi, and her daughter, Jill, they put their heart and soul into this operation, but you mentioned the word tweak a while ago. They just can't seem to get the truck to react as quick as a truck such as a snakebite truck with its type of suspension.
A pair of Fords,
but two completely different philosophies in what's going to make a monster truck run. Rick Rattler out of Cobra Creek, he's running a tried and true setup, the 4-link type setup. But John Moore in the far lane runs a leaf spring setup that's very successful off-road, but we're not running 2,000 miles or 1,000 miles of Baja. We're just trying to go about 200 feet inside the Hoosier Dome.
And these vehicles make a ton of horsepower, and we can tell you a ton of noise. Just kind of echoes throughout reverberates throughout this huge facility in downtown Indianapolis.
Huh?
You heard me. And it's all Rick Rattler in snakebite. The snakebite will advance. I would not think that John Moore's time will be quick enough to make him the fast loser. Make that a 3.73. You know, John Moore at 4:10. So Barefoot would be the fast loser. He'll come back in the semifinals. One more look at the victory for the snakebite Ford.
What's amazing is the snakebite, how he powers the front wheels up with that 10,000-pound truck.
Rick Rattler is standing down with Army Armstrong as he climbs out of his rig.
Rick, I tell you, John Moore looks like he had a handle on this thing tonight. He gave you a good race.
Yeah, he did, Army. The Ford snakebite's really running well. You know, I've been cutting good lights all night. Thanks to the crew, we've been staying on top of that. That time there, I don't know what happened. I think I was taking a nap or something. I can't blame anything on the truck or anything else. You know, this track's really hooking, and we're really running, and it's working well.
So the snakebite will be one of 4 trucks in the semifinals. Coming up next, the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis. What else would you expect but a huge crowd here in the Hoosier Dome? These fans love their monster truck races. We're coming right back at you. Stay with us.
Now, the track itself, it likes this Dodge because the Dodge runs a Lenco transmission. Now, those of you that follow drag race know what I'm talking about. It's a specially designed racing transmission. The Ford you're looking at here runs a C6 transmission. You can buy them all day long at your local Ford dealer. So the transmission advantage at this time, in my opinion, would have to go to the red Dodge. However, the last time they met, that transmission couldn't make up the top end charge of the Big Blue Ford, Gary.
Now, that was in round 2 when Bigfoot won and Barefoot comes back as the fast loser. But here we are in the semifinals. The winner here goes to the championship.
And Barefoot has made a change in that transmission, trying to make up the difference. Look at that.
Oh, Bigfoot by maybe a foot. A big foot. We'll check the times now at 3.66 for Gene Patterson. But 366 to a 368.
But the difference on the, if the replay comes up, look at the attitude of the Dodge truck. He changed that transmission we were talking about, so the power came in at a completely different time. They both get over the first jump pretty clean, but right now, the Dodge really goes up on the RPM and the Ford goes to the other end.
But by the narrowest of margins, Bigfoot Gene Patterson will advance, and the Barefoot monster truck will go on the trailer. So Bigfoot will go to the championship here at the Hoosier Dome. And right now, let's go down trackside and see if we can't get a word with Gene Patterson. Army?
Congratulations, Gene. That was a beautiful run, but you were driving big time trying to stop that rascal.
Yeah, you know, that's right. Gary Sling's been out here on the track with us, as he is with every show. You know, and this Ford, we got her tuned in. You know, we're making all kinds of horsepower. We're having a real hard time sticking her to the track. We're really overdriving the truck. We're just hoping when we sat down, it's propelling us forward, which it has been all night long, you know, and the Trailmasters are really working good for us. MSD, we just put new crank triggers on it. It's working for us, too. We're in the finals. That's where we want to be set.
Well, we can tell you the finals will be all Ford, because coming up now, we'll have Wildfoot, the near lane with Andy Brass. He is staging against Snakebite and Rick Rattler.
Rattler being the oldest designed truck out here today with the 4-link tight suspension. Meanwhile, Wildfoot comes out, Andy Brass. They are working their way through this field, but it's not an easy mark. In the second round, they literally tore the bottom off the truck. They had to hammer and nail to get it back together just to get to this matchup against the other Ford. Snakebite, Gary.
All right, Snakebite the far lane, Wildfoot with Andy Brass the near lane. The winner will take on Bigfoot for the championship here in the Hoosier Dome.
Boy, Brass looks like he and the crew have found the right combination.
Brass a 356, so he will go to the finals. We take a look now at the time for Snakebite, a 366.
He was right there, Gary.
Yeah, but Andy Brass will continue on, so it will be Bigfoot and Wildfoot in the finals here at the Hoosier Dome in downtown Indianapolis. There, a look at the margin of victory.
Hold your horses, Gary. We don't know if this final's set or not. The word we're getting is that Wildfoot may have broken something on that run, may not make the final, so that'll bring Snakebite back into this. Let's keep an eye on this situation.
As we take a look at the run again, remember we told you after round 2, the Wildfoot crew had to work on the rear axle. That may be the problem area right now. There was the margin of victory, but again, Wildfoot may not be able to go against Bigfoot in the finals, and that would put Snakebite in against Bigfoot. Let's talk to Andy Brass. Army?
Andy, a lot of discussion out there. The transmission's laying all the way back up to the finish line. What's the word? Do you make the call, or who makes the call as to whether or not you're going to go into this thing?
Well, usually my crew chief makes the call here today. You know, we're running into a problem. We got no forward gears, no reverse gears. We got nothing in it. I don't know if it's just we lost that much transmission fluid that it's just not going to go no more, or if we broke something like a main shaft, front input shaft, or something in the transmission itself.
So Brass's misfortune could put the snake in the... Welcome back to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, where the finals are set. Andy Brass will not be able to go, so it will be Rick Rattler and Snakebite taking on Gene Patterson and Bigfoot. And earlier, Army had a chance to talk with Andy Brass.
Gary, I'm standing there with Andy Brass. I just got one thing to say. You broke your truck, huh?
Yeah, we did. You know, the Ford Wildfoot was running good for us tonight. You know, the track's real tacky with the Firestone's getting us a lot of good traction. We got that John Kazi Hemi motor, Ford Hemi, that we put there, and she just builds some horsepower, and the transmission's now starting to fail us. So we're going to find our weak link, which is what we feel now is the transmission.
Andy Brass wasn't the only one tough on his equipment as Rick Rattler prepares for the final.
The American flag didn't touch the ground. I like that guy. All right.
Well, back to the action now at the starting line, Snakebite and Bigfoot, and there are the crew members.
We've got another competition, the international arm crossing competition between the crew members.
All they can do is watch. They prepare these trucks the best they can, so now it's up to Gene Patterson and Rick Rattler for the championship here in the Hoosier Dome.
Rattler's not even supposed to be here, so I guarantee you one thing, he is not going to let anybody blink on him. He's got something to prove. The only reason he's here is Andy Brass could not make the call. Bigfoot worked his way to the final, Gary. Keep an eye on that snake truck. He's got something to prove right now.
And he did it. He did it, snake bite. Rick Rattler.
What a run.
Takes the victory at a 3:75.
You almost knew when he got the call to come back into it, he's like a fighter getting second wind. He was going to prove that he could run with these old boys. And guess what, Gary Lee? He did just that.
A look again at our final run here in the Hoosier Dome. Ford against Ford, and there is the margin of victory for Rick Rattler. One more look now as he knocks out Gene Patterson and Bigfoot. Let's go to victory lane, Army.
What can I say? Congratulations. It didn't come easy. Had to work for every inch of it, but everybody's so proud of you for this win. I mean, all the other teams are just really happy you won this one.
Yeah, they are, Army. You know, Ford Snakebite's really been running well. I got to thank my crew. I got to thank Kenny. The guys back in the shop. Colt's going to be real happy with this one. You know, it's not as good as we did last year, but it's doing well, and we'll be back again next year to get this blue truck. I'm quite sure of that. It's just, I'm really rattled. I got to go call somebody.